Okay, I think we're live. Hey, it's a good night for a hangout tonight. I think tomorrow I'm going to be doing a presentation on the whole agnostic atheism thing on the Atheist Edge channel. I'm going to be doing that around 4 o'clock Pacific time, give or take. We tried doing it the other day, but TJ Tuttle couldn't figure out the nuances of modern technology, and we kind of gave up hope. And he didn't have Jim around to figure it out for him, so we're going to do that tomorrow. Anyways, I got Macabre in here, I got Muppets. They're not on camera, but you'll be hearing their voices. Anyone wants to join, link is in the video description. You can come in on a cell phone. Your number will not be shown. I am streaming directly through Zoom, so it's not going to show anybody's number, so I don't have to go in and edit it or blur it like I have to do before, because some dipwad who didn't read the video description where it said your number will be shown decided to come in, and they got pissed off, called YouTube or emailed YouTube or whatever, and I spent about a half hour trying to figure out how to blur it right, because I don't know if you ever use the blurring tools in the editor for the beta. It sucks. It's just bizarre. Whoever came up with that needs to be fired. Just like at this moment, go fire him. Let him go work for like, I don't know, Texas Instruments or something. Anyways, so I want to kind of like talk a little about tonight about skepticism. It's been a topic that I wanted to get into for a while. Not that I'm well versed in skepticism. I'm not. But there's seems to be a lot of misinformation about what skepticism is and what it is to have an opinion and what it is to have a burden of proof. And so I kind of wanted to get your guys' feedback, because it's one of those things is I'm the same way that I am in real life as I am on the videos here. I'm also pretty similar on Twitter and Facebook, except it's more of an extreme version because I don't take crap easily. I'm not going to change. I'm telling you right now, if you try to change me, we're not going to get along. Just straight up. Don't try. You can change somebody's mind. You don't try changing them. Okay. And that's what I'm seeing happening in the skeptic community. When people trying to change someone rather than trying to change their mind, there's going to be a problem, because most humans do not like to be changed by someone else. Now, it's fine to have advice. It's fine to have criticism. It's fine to have even unsolicited to a point. But when you ask people not to give you unsolicited advice, that needs to be taken on board, because there's reasons for that. Many, many reasons. And nobody is obligated to listen to your criticisms. I went through a huge schism on the Great Debate community because I refused to listen to certain people. Those people are now irrelevant. Those people are now vitriol, hostile, evil people that not many people want to be around, and people that know the situation know exactly what I'm talking about. Not going to get in detail with it, but there's reasons why I didn't want to listen to them. So when it comes to skepticism, people ask, well, Steve, are you a skeptic? Well, in the ordinary sense, sure, but that just means that we have ordinary doubt, right? We say, well, I'm not going to generally believe somebody if they say, well, I was abducted by aliens and were, anally probed for several hours on end. Probably not going to be something that I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to, right? That's just ordinary doubt. That's not actual skepticism. The way skepticism is actually the ability to acquire knowledge, at least from an epistemological skepticism. There are many forms of skepticism, but I'm going to be focusing on that particularly. So there's two major schools of that: the Pyrrhonian skepticism and the academic skepticism, or academic skeptics. And both basically they're very similar. One says, hey, I don't think we could have knowledge. And the other one says, well, I don't think we can even know if we can actually ask the question to think we could have knowledge or not, right? They think the question's kind of, we have no idea. So they're the ultimate skeptics, right? So the skeptics are the ones that have to do with knowledge, whether we're gonna have knowledge or not. Just by saying, I don't believe you without evidence, I'm sorry, you're not really, in the philosophical sense of the word, being skeptical. You're just being an ordinary skeptic, which is fine. If you want to use that word, I don't mind. This is one of those rare instances where it's so ingrained in general parlance that fine. If you want to call that skeptical and skepticism, I'm okay with that. As long as I think you just have to understand the distinctions being made. But I don't usually use that terminology for myself. I don't have an issue with somebody else using it because it doesn't lead to any contradictions that I can see or any ambiguity. If you know somebody's going to be using those terminologies, and it doesn't lead to any kind of absurdity. So I don't have an issue with that. But I'm finding in the skeptic community that the more you voice your opinion, the more people are taking things personally, the more divisiveness occurs in a group of skeptics and free thinkers. This is the historical record of people in these communities of having free thought. And skepticism is that they, and I'm using it in the colloquial sense, that they get upset if you differ in opinion, right? And I don't know why I keep looking over here. You guys are going, what is Steve looking at? No, it's not what you think. But well, it might be. I don't know. I don't know what you think. You're going to tell me here in a few after I do my opening rant like I kind of usually do. But we have thousands of people involved in our communities, whether you're involved directly in the community, tangential to the community, related to the community. Not all of us get along. Not all of us are going to be friends. Not all of us consider people friends. It takes a lot for me to extend a hand of friendship to somebody. Most people I know I consider to be acquaintances. There are some good friends of mine. If you ever been in a private hangout with me, you're pretty much guaranteed you're a friend. If you ever had a DM with me, possibly I could probably consider you a friend. People that I can correspond with frequently, a friend, or somebody that's friendly to my channel. Like Macabre. We don't correspond that much, but he's friendly to my channel, so I would consider him a friend, right? That's generally how I use these terminologies. If all you want to do is criticize my channel, criticize me, and basically don't want to respect my boundaries, I'm not going to go out of my way to consider myself somebody to be a friend, right? Anyways, though, I really want to know what you guys think about what's going on in the skeptic communities as a whole, because somebody literally today, I'm not going to get any specifics in this particular hangout. There's no reason to, but somebody actually today said that I'm fracturing the skeptic community. And I thought, wow, do you think that I have that kind of empowerment to do that? I'm flattered, but I don't. Nobody should have that kind of empowerment. However, there are rifts, right? I think that certain people that have broken away, that have literally have formed isolation chambers and echo chambers, they have caused rifts and schisms, but not complete fracturings. But other than that, most people don't have the empowerment to do that kind of stuff. It's not the people so much that cause schisms, it's the discord that they sow, right? And so certain things that they deem you should not talk about become vitriolic. They become taboo topics. They become off limits. Now, my channel and me, I want to talk about the topics. I want to talk about the issues. I want to talk about the arguments. I'm very direct. I'm very matter of fact. I'm very rational. I like to think I'm logical. Some people like that. Some people don't. Some people get it. Some people don't get it. It's one or the other. I'm not going to cater to both sides of the fence. I'm going to cater to the one side only because that's the way I feel. That's the way I am. That's not who I'm pandering to. But if those people that respect a good conversation, that want to have honest dialogue and intelligent conversation and can carry on a conversation, welcome to the Great Debate community in my channel. And of course, Non Sequitur is founded on that, right? I mean, that's about having the conversations. If you're one of those people that are very sensitive, that just want to blow up all the freaking time, that just want to have arguments, bad arguments, not good arguments, but just want to get triggered, you're probably not going to fit in very well. And I people want to not be a part of this channel and in my circles, I get that. I bear them no ill will. Go with God. I don't have any personal grudge against anybody. I'm not an emotional person. I think 3 people that I could probably think of in the entire time I'm on YouTube has ever seen me emotional, and with good reason. But I think I had one video that was very emotional, but there's reasons for that. Obviously, things do happen. But for the most part, I'm not an emotional kind of person, and I certainly don't cater to people's feelings and their fifis. People call me insensitive for that. May be the case, but I am sensitive to when I need to be sensitive. But if you are if you're claiming that I'm insensitive merely because you're disagreeing with me and you think that my argument's wrong, that's not a good reason to say I'm an insensitive person, right? But I don't want any ill will to happen to somebody. I don't want to have harm to somebody. I've actually stood up for people that have told me that people are calling their work and trying to get them fired and all this other stuff. I'm very sensitive to that. I'm very sensitive to people that have been victimized. I'm very sensitive to people who have been harassed and bullied. I've been there. So yes, I'm going to have a little bit more empathy for those types of people because I've been in those situations and I get it, right? But that doesn't give them carte blanche to say that I shouldn't have a certain opinion or certain argument merely because of experiences that we've had. It doesn't invalidate the experience. It doesn't invalidate what they've been through. They've been through hell. A lot of people have been through hell. It doesn't mean that they have any more right to say that their position or opinion is any more valid than anybody else's, right? So anyways, that was my little opener. By the way, that was all off the cuff. But Macabre and Muppets are in here. You don't see them because they're not on camera. But if you guys want to throw down and weigh down on that, please let me know. This is an open hangout. If I know who you are, you're welcome in. I've never blocked people for having a disagreement, never will. I don't allow certain trolls in, but that's a completely different thing, obviously, right? So people can say a lot about me. They can call me smug, they can call me arrogant, call me inept or ignorant. I don't even care, give a shit. But when they start calling me exclusionary, that I'm having an isolationist type thing or echo chamber, that just boggles my mind, right? I have literally probably the most open hangouts of anybody that I've ever seen on YouTube. So
yeah.
Anyways, Macabre, what you got for us? Oh, Muppets, you want to go?
I was just about to say about, you're very inclusive. I remember back in the GDC days before non-selector even existed, that you're very inclusive to most people. Unless they're trolls.
That's and I have that exclusion for a reason, obviously. But
obviously,
and not all the groups do. I mean, Atheist Edge allows a lot of trolling, and good for them, right? I don't fault them for it. It doesn't work for me. But it takes a lot for me to call somebody a troll. It really does. Just having a differing opinion. I have mods that go after me all the time that have differing opinions. Zero and Smitty, they don't agree with me on a lot of things, but they're my mods. I respect them. I listen to what they have to say. I will listen to people that are worth listening to. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them, but there's certain people I just don't think that they're worth listening to, and so I don't. Been that way for years.
and that's your right. That's your prerogative. If you don't want to listen to someone individually, you don't have to. And I don't really see anything wrong with all the stuff that's been going on lately. I think it exposes a lot of the underpinnings of a lot of these groups, kind of with the Atheist Plus experience. If you remember those times.
Mm-hmm. But what name were you under for the when you were in the GDC?
Always Muppets.
Was it Muppets?
What's your icon? Muppets. It's literally a Muppet's face, like Fozzie Bear.
Vaguely. Here's the thing. I mean, I
don't hop into your hangouts very often.
Okay, because I don't recognize it. I hate to say it.
Oh, you're fine. It's what I stay in the background a lot, so that's perfectly fine.
I know Muppets.
Oh, are you the one telling me to kick him out? No, I'm kidding.
Well, he's on non-sex Discord.
Okay, no, that's fine. No, that's cool. He was in here before I went live, so I already vetted him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My biggest issue with this whole situation is just the fact that skeptic community is somewhat of a misnomer. I think that skepticism is highly contextual in how we apply it in our everyday lives and to the information we receive. And one of the biggest issues I see in the online community that calls itself skeptic is that, as opposed to being skeptical of claims in and of themselves, a lot of people seem to be skeptical of the source as opposed to the actual claim.
So a genetic fallacy. Well, no, I mean, not necessarily. Well, it depends. I mean, if they're skeptical of the source, right, there's a genetic fallacy to be had because the person could be correct. And by the way, I was thinking of Dunbar's number. I couldn't think it off the top of my head. Dunbar's number is an actual number. I think it's 500, where that's effectively the most amount of people you can manage in your circles. I've surpassed that a long time ago, so forgive me. But Macabre, yeah. I agree with you to the sense that it's kind of the point where if you have a position, right, you have an opinion on something, then all of a sudden, if there's a disagreement, things become about the source of the disagreement. Oh, look at Steve. He's smug. Therefore, he must be wrong. Oh, look at Steve. He pissed off Matt Dillahunty. Therefore, he must be wrong. Oh, look at Steve. Ron blocked him. Must be wrong. That's the type of fallacy that I'm seeing from a group of skeptics. And I've seen it more than once. I've seen it quite a few times. People have tweeted something out similar. And it's like, do they not understand how fallacious that reasoning is?
Well, I think it goes further than that, though. If you look at some of the, I don't want to bring drama from other sources directly into the limelight here, but if you get my meaning, a lot of the people that you've been arguing with complete credulity accept information that is clearly antithetical to the current scientific consensus, and they will believe that ardently as though it's almost doublethink and refer to it with double speak, simply for the fact that they lack the capacity to be skeptical because they've gotten that information from a source that says, believe me, or you're a bad person.
I've seen that. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you remember, because I think you may have pointed it out if I'm not mistaken, but there was a guy on Twitter, and again, I didn't want to mention names, but this guy, I guess, blocked his account or made it private or something, so I don't know if he's even on Twitter any longer. Some guy named Rational Veteran or something, Rational Vet.
Yeah.
Okay, so he put a bunch of stuff up, right, which went complete against his narrative, right? But he was adamantly doubling down that it supported beliefs and his cause. Now, again, not to get into the details on it because I think it's irrelevant and it might just change the topic, and I don't want to do that. But do you agree that everything he cited, literally, if you read it, went against what he was saying? At least when I saw.
Well, the academic journal he cited, yes. The other blog article, I don't think he read it. If anyone's wondering, his assertion was that there are more than 2 biological sexes, and one source was a blog article that opened up with a short paragraph saying there are 6 karyotypes.
But that was a law firm that had that. It was a law firm that had that on there for whatever reason. Blog. But it was talking about karyotypes.
The first paragraph. Right. There are 6 karyotypes, right. Therefore there are 6 biological sexes.
It's bizarre.
As evidence for this, the next paragraph said, look, this is a little girl that's convinced she's a boy. The next paragraph said, this little boy had a botched circumcision and lost his penis.
Yep.
And then concluded with a few dot points.
They decided to amputate his penis, if I remember correctly. I read that. Yeah, okay.
And then concluded with the dot point saying, so why are straight males the biggest consumers of transsexual porn?
Yeah. So none of that supported his position at all.
It wasn't even fucking relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. And even some of the citations he had, I think he produced 1 or 2 papers and that went against his narrative as well. But anyways, so yeah, you're right. I think a lot of the skeptic communities, whether they hate people in the skeptic community, I really hate to say it, I think they do rely a lot on people that are just like you said, believe me, or you're just a bad person. Believe me, or you're just wrong. Believe me, regardless. I mean, David Silverman once said, something famously as, if you don't believe in God, you're an atheist. If you don't like it, too damn bad, fuck off kind of thing. That's basically what his sentiment was. And of course, people look at him and, oh, look at David Silverman. If he said it, it must be the case. They're not authorities on this. That's a fallacious use of appeal to authority. And yet, I still have skeptics say, well, Steve, you're appealing to authority, and that's fallacious. Well, no, stop saying that, people. You'll look like an idiot when you say that. If you appeal to an actual expert that has evaluated the topic, that has weighed in on the topic, that is not a fallacious appeal to authority. Is it appeal to authority? Yes, but it's called a legitimate appeal to authority.
There's an obvious difference between the two.
There's an obvious difference. Thank you.
Because
we're not obvious to them, though.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think one of the biggest issues with the majority of people is that we're all human. And if you don't think critically on these enough, you tend to go towards authority figures, whether or not they're correct or not.
Well, I mean, I think what happens is you get so much shit if you go against them, right? I mean, look what happened to me. I mean, I got X'd from the Atheist Republic, right? I had Matt Dillahunty block me, Aaron block me, even though neither one of them has ever shown me to be incorrect, right? Nope. All they've done is, especially Matt, has gone on other channels and strawman the crap out of me, but neither one has shown that I'm wrong. Matter of fact, actual logicians and people that know epistemology have actually told him, or Aaron, hey, what Steve's actually writing the logic here. Don't you like, he didn't know what a double negative was.
Yeah.
And so here, but here's the thing. When you have people that are in positions that have a following, that have an audience, and people just blindly follow it, that is incongruent what I would expect to see from a free-thinking skeptical community. Am I wrong for assuming that free thinkers should be independent of the people that they're following? If they hear somebody that says something that they don't believe is correct, especially something that is material fact, do you not think they should call them out the more, even if they're one of their heroes? Like,
well, they definitely should.
Because I don't see that much. Because I mean,
that's how you get the honesty, right? And you want to be completely intellectually honest. You have to call someone out when they're being incorrect, even if you look up to them.
I am watching the live chat, so real quick. I like what Manifold just said, which is unusual. No, I'm kidding, Manifold. Manifold said, Steve, they don't block you because they think you're wrong. You understand that. You're a good guy, but it's a personality issue, not an issue about debating facts. Well, they do think I'm wrong. Trust me, Manifold. They really do think I'm wrong. But they block me because I don't think they want to have that conversation, which is fine. But I'm not the one bringing it up to them, right? I'm not. People have this weird narrative that I keep tagging them. I've never tagged them except for in response when they come into my conversations. Other people have tagged them into our dialogue, which presents a problem, right? So you can't just say that they don't block me because they think I'm wrong. Of course they do. And I've been willing to have that conversation. I will put my money where my mouth is. I was thinking actually before Aaron blocked me on Facebook, offering $100 to a charity of their choice if he can actually show that I'm wrong live on air. right? I could put money where my mouth is because I know the topic, right? And he keeps telling people that I'm wrong, but other people that do know the topic tell me I'm right. So who am I going to, me, right? As somebody who's looking into this, which should I believe? Somebody who has personality, who I do respect. I have the utmost respect for Arn. I think he's a wonderful human being. I mean, it just has a heart the size of Chicago. Okay. But he's fundamentally wrong in the logic, right? And he's fundamentally wrong on what he puts out, I think, sometimes. So who should I believe? The people that I talk to frequently, that I do trust, that are experts in this field, or Arn? As a skeptic community, which do you, John, think I should have? Macabre dog is eating your mic.
Oh,
big dog.
Isn't he beautiful?
Yeah, it's a gorgeous dog. I love puppies. Oh, that's a big puppy.
Oh,
that's like an 8-year-old, what, 4 to 8-year-old puppy?
No, yeah, actually, he's turning 5 in December.
Okay, so yeah, ballpark.
Oh no,
Okay.
he's going to get my mic cord.
Oh my goodness, man! I had so many puppies eat mic cords. Oh, you have no idea. True story. So, anyways, John, what do you think? I mean, why would a skeptic community not believe me, but believe the people that I'm citing over somebody like, Arn on topics that Arn's just clearly not that familiar with? And I'm not calling Arn out. I'm just not bashing on him. Again, I want people to understand I really have the utmost respect for Arn, but this is a topic that I feel passionate about, that I know about, and that we have a disagreement on. And I think that we should be able to talk about disagreements without getting at each other's throats. I don't want to block somebody because of a disagreement, right? I only block somebody when they turn it personal.
I mean, you shouldn't really block somebody unless you're feeling like it's becoming too personal.
Right.
If you're being objective about it, you're having a conversation, you have a disagreement about it. I mean, we don't need to turn into Socrates and throw feces at each other.
Yeah, I don't really want to do that, especially over the internet. Yeah, and by the way, you don't have to know about the topic to come in, Progressive Liberal. Anybody's welcome to come in. I mean, I have these discussions because I like to get people's opinions. I have these discussions because I like to get contrary positions, right? This is why, again, when people say I have an echo chamber, it's like, wait, do you actually realize that, especially on this and Non Sequitur show, we invite the people that disagree more than we do agree, right? I mean, and I think most shows operate that way, right? Talk Heathen, Atheist Experience. Wouldn't it be kind of boring if they only had people that called in and agreed all the time? Even I wouldn't watch that.
Yeah, it's extremely boring.
Which John were you asking a minute ago?
Oh, Peterson, you.
So I think to answer your question is that many people, especially like after what I saw, I just joined Twitter Friday and I made the mistake of turning the notification bell on your feed. And my phone was smoking yesterday. Like it was just like on fire. I think the answer to your question is that the majority of people that take part in arguments and debates on social media like that are reactionary, and to them it's a popularity contest. They're really not putting any rational thought into it. They're basically sheep being led by whoever they believe should be telling them what they should think, basically. I mean, I don't think that people are really critically thinking when you go through debates like that on those social media platforms.
Which is why I choose not to use them.
Well, I like the social media forums, but do you think that people, and I don't think this is a wide group. I think it's a pretty small group, but do you think there's a group of people that just aren't capable of having their own independent thought and their own independent ideas and their own novel arguments? Or
people that just don't want to, not maybe that they're incapable of it, that they don't want to. They don't want to. It's easier to be told what they should think.
Well, we have terms for those people. Those people are religious.
Ooh. Shots fired. Sygart.
Shut up, Muppet.
Yeah, Muppet shot fired over. Ooh.
I was going to say, Steve.
The views of the guest don't necessarily are the views of the host. Okay, go ahead.
I think one big issue is that you're both right, sort of halfway, in my opinion. I think that for the most part, or actually in a very real sense, people are incapable of original thought. They're capable of adapting previous thoughts. But in a more practical sense, I think that it's a mixture of the Dunning-Kruger effect and confirmation bias. And I think that we generally, relegate those sort of terms to people we think are stupid.
Not necessarily, though. I know very smart people.
And like flat earthers, for example, but in a real sense, I mean, we're all subject to the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll be the first to admit there have been topics way back when, especially I probably thought I knew more about than I did, right? But now I realize that there's certain topics I really don't know that much about, and I avoid those topics, right? Like I've said, geology, not my thing, right? I really don't know about geology anywhere near that I should be for a person at my age and my experience. It's for some reason it's just not a topic I have that much interest in, or well, I shouldn't say I have interest, but it doesn't stick with me, right? So I'm not going to be someone going around critiquing videos on geology or anything, right? Or geophysics.
I mean,
it's not going to happen.
Here's the thing: is the word ignorance has all this negative connotations to it.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, every human being on the planet is ignorant in one way or the other, because all ignorance is lack of knowledge. You know, so if you don't have a particular expertise in a subject, you are ignorant. You know.
So when people say agnosticism is lack of knowledge, you're saying agnosticism is ignorance. Okay, no, I'm kidding. See, logical reasoning. Yeah, so it's wearing down on me and other people. I see, the other day was the first day I ever got upset on Twitter. Literally, the first day I've ever actually had a real emotional response on Twitter. Never has happened before. I know people think Twitter Steve, but I am the same way like I am now on Twitter. What you see is not what you get in writing. I mean, it's just, what you see, what you're going to get person, but I don't get emotionally involved. I really don't. I'm very dispassionate, but I actually was really upset. And that was because I had people that I thought should have been defending me in certain ways on these labels that maybe weren't as much as I had hoped that, right? And maybe it was just me having too high of an expectation, but I calmed down. I had a great chat with a couple people that night and, good to go. But I think a lot of people don't think like that. I think a lot of people, they get emotionally involved. I can actually think that they're probably very, very emotionally invested in certain arguments, and they get very, very passionate about them. And I'm just not that kind of person, right? I am not a very passionate person. I'm very dispassionate. I can't help that. Trying to change me, not going to work, right? You either accept me who I am, right? I mean, here's the thing. If people want us to accept other people for who they are, right? I mean, that's the whole basis behind LGBTQ and stuff. People should accept people for who they are. I'm very much pro that, but I don't see a lot of the same consideration in return.
I think it depends on the groups of people you're talking to. I think it just really depends. When you're talking about such a large group of a community on the internet, you have a whole lot more people who are the minority who have more of a voice. And I think that can become a divisive issue sometimes.
Do you think that they have more of a voice, or do you think they just have a louder voice?
Well, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Colloquially speaking, just louder.
I got you. No, I definitely can't disagree with that.
Because most general people don't really say much. You just have either a very loud minority speaking, or you have a consensus that's gathered, and then those people are talking. Yeah,
no, I definitely agree with that. We've often seen that the smaller groups are the most vocal. They are the most loudest, and maybe they have to scream louder because of that, right? It might be a causal effect. It might be something that because they're a small group, they have to speak louder than if they had a larger organization that was speaking on their behalf, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time when I see some of these smaller groups advocating for something, they're not positions that I hold. They're not positions that I advocate for, right? And if you speak out against them, then you're labeled some kind of pejorative. You're labeled some kind of invective. You're labeled a slight against you in order to minimize your critique of their argument. That, to me, are the people that I do not associate with. Those are the people I do not want to have around. Those are the opinions I do not value.
Yeah, I think that's being intellectually dishonest at that point. If you're actively refusing to acknowledge someone's argument on an intellectual basis based purely on an insult.
Right. Now I've cut down my insults, by the way. I mean, I went through the whole 30 days. I managed to make it, even though Ozzy was like, "Hey, Steve, I think you messed up. I think you insulted somebody for your 30 days." I go, "No. It started here, not from this tweet, but it started from the hangout." He's like, "Oh, so you made it like 24 hours or something." I'm like, "Yes, I did." But he's like, your threshold for what constitutes an insult might be a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
I agree. Fair enough.
I think everybody has that short fuse.
Yeah.
When you hear something so dumb sometimes, you just want to be like, no, you're a troll.
It's so dumb, you just can't go, God.
Either you're just being intellectually honest or you do not understand the argument.
I see that happen all the time, though, right? I see people, they say the dumbest things in response to something that I say, and I have to cock my head and go, okay, either you're really fundamentally too stupid to understand what I just said, or you are strawmanning me for some agenda. And unfortunately, you don't know on Twitter, right? You just don't know, especially with people that just kind of come into the conversation. You have no idea which it is, right? You can't even venture a guess, because then you just be guessing. But it seems to me most of them just don't understand. They just don't.
You know, here's my opinion on it,
or both. Thank you, Miss Breast. Yeah.
Steve, I think you and I like to deploy the same tactic against people, which is the Socratic method.
Yes.
Right. So
yes,
it's not just a question; it's a question that leads to a further question.
Yeah.
And people take the question itself as the attack.
Right.
And in the Socratic method, a question's not an attack. A question is the uncovering of the evidence that led to your answer. So I think, real quick, I think what people see is, I just answered that question, and now you're asking me another question. Well, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to find the truth.
That works.
Yeah,
exactly.
It might be 5 questions and it might be 10, but until we've got all of them answered, we don't have your argument. And I think that's what I saw today. Actually,
God, I am so grateful. I am so grateful you said this and you brought this up. I really, really am, because I have told people before. There's been people in the community that I have actually told them, look, I'm trying to use the Socratic method, which, by the way, is a way of using open questions to further the dialogue.
And it's the best way.
Yeah, and I'm all for the Socratic method. However, I have learned, and this is my personal thing, right? So don't take this as like, gospel or whatever, but I have learned that sometimes the Socratic method doesn't work with certain people, and you have to ask closed questions. Okay, yes or no.
Yes.
You have to get to the point where you say, look, I think you're being a dishonest interlocutor. And either you answer my questions directly, because I'm going to ask you direct questions, closed questions, not open questions. And if you can't answer yes or no, or at least answer yes, no with some kind of expository. And finally, even then, sometimes I'll say, I don't even want an expository. It gets that dishonest. So I start off like open, close with expository, then no expository, close, because that's generally the way you'll see every conversation I've ever had. That's the way it goes.
Sure. Absolutely. And
I've been told that's dishonest, Ethan. I had a YouTuber tell me and made a video claiming I was dishonest for using that type of approach.
Steve, I had 2 different people tell me the same thing today. It happens all the time because they don't understand the methodology. And it is a methodology. It is not an attack. It's a methodology. Yep. It's the scientific method of language and logic. It really is. I really believe that. And
I think that one reason why some people are put off by that is that it can be bastardized. I mean, you can use that. You can use that method.
Apologetics.
Don't.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, just an example.
So
somebody like Darth Dawkins would tell you that he's applying the Socratic method.
Oh God!
But when he asks his questions, it's dishonest. I mean,
right. I think one of the issues there is that when Darth says that he's using the Socratic method, I think the individual should be able to examine that and be like, is he really using it in honest ways, or is he not?
Well, they do. Well, they call. I mean, Darth gets called out quite frequently.
Well, I'm just using it as an example. Yeah. I'm just using it generally. If someone's saying they're using a method for something, you should be able to look at that empirically and be like, is he really using it in an honest way, or is he not?
Well, right. But my point is because of people like Darth Dawkins, then people who aren't able to make that distinction, then they encounter somebody using the Socratic method in a legitimate way, and they just think of all the bad examples in their head. Well, you're just
right,
doing the same thing that these other idiots do.
Right, I agree. But here, everything Ethan said, I completely agree with. I don't think I could possibly agree with him more on this. But but here's the thing: he gets called a dishonest interlocutor for it. I've been called a dishonest interlocutor for it.
Yep.
This tells me that person doesn't understand how to have a dialectic. This tells me that person who's accusing me of being dishonest either is a dishonest interlocutor or not competent enough to have an honest dialogue. Those are the people I do not really want to have conversations with. I tell people straight out, look, my content's not for everybody. I get that. I am not going to be some big name YouTuber with 100,000 subscribers on this particular channel. Maybe on Non Sequitur, because it's Kyle and I, plus we have a lot of co-hosts. Plus we have a fantastic guest, right? Jesus. But on this particular channel, not something I'm aiming for, right? I don't pander to any particular group. And I tell people, if you think I'm dishonest, you think I'm a dishonest interlocutor, you think I'm the problem, by all means, unsubscribe. Go somewhere else. I don't mind. I don't hold it personally. Go be with God. I don't fault anybody for that. But the people that want to have the conversations, we have great conversations in there. We had like 21 people in here the other day, 200 people watching, right? It very productive dialogue, and it was actually on the transgender stuff, and not a single person got upset, not a single person got out of line. Everybody got their speak. There's their chance to speak. That's what honest interlocutors do. 21 honest people in there. I didn't think a single one of them was dishonest, right?
Steve, I've got to point out though,
Sure.
One, I think for a lot of the people that you're referring to, for them, the idea of being skeptical is just to exercise incredulity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about examining a claim as much as it is saying, I've been told that you're wrong, therefore I'll scrutinize your ideas and confirm my perceived conclusion.
Yep.
Second to that,
I agree with check one. Okay, we're on the same page.
I think that, I guess, conversations with you sometimes can implode because you're viewing it logically as opposed to thinking about the more human elements.
Sure.
Often, sometimes you will say things that people perceive as insensitive.
Sure.
And perhaps you don't even intend to do it. I don't think you intend to do it.
No, I don't. Yeah, let me clarify. I don't ever try to intentionally cause anything emotional, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I have done it before with certain trolls. I had somebody last night, if you guys they were trolling me. I never heard of this person before, blue hair person. And she was going off on me, male bashing, right? The first comment to me was basically like, oh, you American white males are all the same kind of thing. And so everything she said to me, I was like, well, are you being an ableist? Are you sexually harassing me? I was just doing what she did to me, right? So yes, I was trying to emotionally having a response for her to try to get her to understand that her sexist comment to me was no different than me saying, oh, well, some woman, blah, 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 right? I mean, sexism is sexism, right? You can't have it one way. There's no such thing as unilateral sexism. Sexism can be both a male against a female against a female against a female, male against a male. Sexism is you having something against something else because of their either their biological sex or their gender or wherever it is. You're having something against some other position. Well, it's not a position, but I guess what word should I use? There are somebody's
supposition. Is that what you're?
I don't even know what the word to use. I mean, it's just like, for example, if I was saying I won't hire women because I don't think they're competent enough to do the job, that's sexist, right?
Yeah.
But if I said I won't hire men because I don't think they're competent enough to do the job, that's just as sexist, even though I'm a male, right? So you can be
absolutely. No,
well, sexism is a two-way street. It doesn't really matter exactly who you're talking to.
Thank you.
Sure. I don't know
Thank you for wording
why
it.
people draw lines. The only time I've ever seen someone trying to make an argument, in my experience, where sexism is only for women is that men hold the majority of power, which I think is utterly retarded.
Yeah, but, you know what? Women are more empowered, getting more empowerment all the time, and great for that, right? I mean, I've had just as many shitty male bosses as I've only had a couple bad female bosses. I've had more male bosses that were shit.
I think I would like to say that I depend, don't put it this way. Any person can be sexist regardless of their gender.
Yes.
And I think people need to realize that, because the more people that realize that, the closer we'll be to actual true quote unquote equality with people.
On Discord,
equity. Yeah.
On Discord last night, somebody was we were talking about the upcoming presidential election, and this person said, it's gotta be a woman. The Democrats have got to put up a woman this time. And I said to him, and I'd
vote for her.
I was kind of tongue in cheek. I said, well, that's just sexist. And he said, and he just went off the deep end. How is that? He just couldn't see it. I'm like,
they don't see it.
It has to be a woman.
They don't.
That is sexist.
Well, if I said it has to be a man, women would find that sexist, and rightly so, right? I mean, I don't think they shouldn't find that sexist. But anyways, real quick, Macabre was on a second part, and I know we kind of went on a tangent there.
That's cool. Thanks for getting back to me. I think
I try to pay attention.
This exact example is really what I wanted to get to the crux of. This guy can't see that he's being sexist, even though you pointed out. Now, you can see, I guess, when you perceive a gap in someone's rationale, you can use the Socratic method. Sorry, why am I so inarticulate this morning?
Socratic method?
Yes.
No, you're like me, how I usually am. Actually, more articulate today than usual. I just couldn't find certain words for certain descriptions for some reason.
You'll try and tease that out, but at the same time,
We'll add it in the post.
You're discounting like the power of cognitive dissonance in a social context. So you say something to someone, trying to make them acknowledge the fact that they're employing doublethink. They get shitty. They think it's a slight against them. Those who are sympathetic to them perceive it as a slight against them. And suddenly you've just sparked the kindling to a huge fucking dumpster fire. And I don't think that you should be necessarily blamed for that. But I think that there is a certain level of detachment you expect from, that you unduly respect from others when you're talking to them, that just isn't there. And I think it's at times a bit naive to assume that they are there to discuss a rational matter, and not just fling
that's fair
shit
criticism.
because of a difference of opinion.
No, and that's fair for you to say that. But my response to that is, I have tried to go out of my way to make sure people understand on Twitter. I'm more going to be more dispassionate on Twitter than I am any medium. That is my dumpster fires. Only because I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to be considerate a person's fifis if the argument is wrong, right? Or if I feel like they have said something that isn't correct, or if I feel like they have given material fact that is incorrect, right? I'm not going to be that cognizant of their feelings because I'm not there to appease their feelings, right? Now, in a real life situation, things are different. I mean, if somebody comes to me and needs some emotional support, they're going to get it, right? I mean, believe me, I have people that call me, and when they have major problems going on, and I will sit on the phone with them happily for hours, and be there for them, right? That to me is me being empathetic, because I do have emotions. I'm not going to be that way on Twitter. It's just because I don't want those to get in the way of the actual discussions. I'm very matter of fact. Some people like that, and I like people that are matter of fact. And when a person is matter of fact, and I know quite a few of them, we seem to get along really well because we know where we stand. Even if we disagree with somebody, with them, we know where we stand with each other. But every so often I see a very matter of fact person start to fall into that tribalism type thing, or start to fall into that argument by emotion thing, or argument by motive thing. And it's just like, damn well you'd be calling somebody out for using that same argument because it's fallacious. So why are you arguing it only because you're getting emotionally involved on a sensitive issue? I try to avoid that stuff. I really do try to avoid committing fallacies. And yet, do you know how many times I get called out for supposedly committing a fallacy? And I ask them, how am I committing this fallacy? And either they don't know what the fallacy actually entails, or they get it completely wrong.
I think a lot of it too is people who aren't good at debating think that semantics qualifies as winning an argument.
Oh, yeah.
So I had somebody attacking me during the non-sex show earlier because I didn't use the word should. And he was going on and on. And I was like, I don't understand what your argument is.
Wow, thank you.
Down to me, I didn't say should. And yes, obviously should was inferred. But since I didn't say should, my entire argument was invalid.
Wow. Good point. You're bringing up some very excellent points, because
I'm a smart guy.
You're
Steve.
pretty, for an average Joe, you're kind of smart. So you've been to school. There's
once or twice.
Things people don't understand about semantics. So, if you have two intelligent people having a very good semantic argument, it could be one of the best conversations in the round. However, people that are not skilled, people that are not know how to use argumentation theory very well, people that don't know how to debate, they, like you said, they inappropriately try to use a semantic argument where one is not to be had, and two, they try to use it as a rejoinder to the actual argument, which only makes them look like an idiot.
Yep.
Anthony Riley.
Absolutely.
Oh, every flat earther out there, first of all. But yeah, semantics deal with like meanings. And so there are certain times where we can have a very productive conversation about, for example, Ethan, you might be the only person that understands this. And if you don't, I'm not trying to shotgun you. I'm not.
Sure.
Sharpshoot you. But are you familiar with something like a de re and de dicto? Who's like sleeping?
Me, I'm sorry, I yawned again.
Oh my God, dude. Get some coffee.
But I didn't hear it all the way. Oh,
what versus D dicto?
No, I don't.
Okay. They're basically ways of interpreting something when you read. Like if I said to myself, someone is following me, right? You can be understood two different ways, D or D dicto. One way would be like someone that I don't know who it is following me. I just have a feeling someone is following me, right? I think that's right. I always get these confused, but I think that's D dicto. And then D and if I get these backwards, by the way, which I usually do, and Ozzy keeps on going, no, Steve, you have it backwards. So I probably screwed it up again. But D would be something along the lines of when I'm saying someone is following me, I have a particular person in mind. Like, for example, let's say I think John is following me, right? So the statement, someone is following me, I could put John in there. I can instantiate John for someone, and it doesn't change the meaning, right? Someone is following me or John is following me. Because it takes a different interpretation, because instantiation of someone is different. It doesn't change the propositional value, right? If I use it as a proposition. So these are nuances of conversation, right? So when you're having a semantic argument, okay, should we use the word someone or John, or we should use this word? Did it change the proposition? Those are semantics, right? Because you're dealing with words and what they can mean and what they can imply. And so those are wonderful linguistic arguments. But when you I try to argue with somebody and you try to say, well, by definition, okay, first of all, I guarantee it, if you're not talking about maths and you say by definition, you've already pretty much lost the argument with me. At least you're not somebody that I'm going to have a rational conversation with.
Yep. Or proof.
Now,
your proof.
I will have one caveat. If somebody says I'm using proof in the general sense, I'm gonna let it slide. Aaron made a video one time, and he did just that, and he let me watch it. And I was like, Aaron, I'm fine with it. I think he let me review some videos before he did them. I don't know if this was one, but I even told him, I said, look, you said I'm not using a proof as in the logical sense, right? I'm using it as a scientific sense. So in that case, scientific proof, which I think is oxymoron, I don't particularly use it, right? As long as somebody knows the concepts, which I think Aaron does, I'm okay with it, right? And to me, it's all about the concepts. When somebody says, well, can you scientifically prove that? And they don't understand why that is a very poorly worded sentence, and they don't understand the problem there, that's where I come in, explaining to them the problem. They still want to use it and they understand the concepts. Okay. Right.
I still had flat earthers on my mind when I said that. That's what I was inferring.
Well, what concepts do flat earthers understand?
Well, that's true. Not many.
Not many.
I mean, water doesn't stick to a ball, Steve.
Yeah, of course. But but people look at me like I'm crazy when I'm trying to tell this stuff. I've had actual people that claim to be in science go, well, Steve, you're just an idiot if you don't think there's scientific proofs. And I'm like, no, the science is not there to prove things. Science is there to explain. And so models must have a falsifiability condition, which would be, what's something that Karl Popper has. And by the way, not all scientists agree with that. There are some people that don't think they should have falsification criteria. However, generally speaking, they should. I think they should, and most scientists think that way. But they can never be proven. You cannot prove the general theory of relativity. When someone says, well, Steve, you don't think evolution is proven? I tell them, no, it's not proven. And they look at me like I'm crazy, like I'm somehow a creationist. And I'm like, no, you're not understanding the concepts.
Steve, I think that's the definition of getting bogged down in semantics, because being part of an online skeptic community, we've adopted a lot of creationist and even flat earth terminology into our vernacular, so it doesn't impede our ability to communicate to others, i.e. Kent-Hovind evidences, Kent-Hovind stellar evolution, geological evolution. He invented those terms. But they come up quite often now, and everyone understands what they mean, because we don't let the.
Well, I would like to point out when I hear those things, I automatically ask, define those, and I'll tell you why you're wrong about using that terminology.
Well, for example, Fight the Flat Earth. He's not in the chat, but Team Skeptic is. Fight the Flat Earth will use the term evidences when he's talking to Anthony Wright.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Evidence. It
shits me to no end as well. But at the same time, if it means we can both have a conversation, and I don't really care. 5 minutes and explain that it's grammatically technically correct.
Well, even Webster's finally gave up and put "ain't" in the dictionary.
Yeah, look at here's the thing. Look at when here's where I know I'm not dealing with a really honest person who I give a shit about. Speaking of which, Reds just came in. So one sec, Reds. So when I'm typing something, I type really fast. I mean, I've been typing all my life. I took typing classes. I can probably speed type about 100 words a minute if I really had to. But I'm really about 50 or 60 on a good typewriter, right? I type. You see how much I respond to people. You obviously know I type, right? Right. And so when I do that, my brain is thinking half the time faster than I'm actually typing, or my fingers are going, or vice versa, and I make mistakes. I make grammatical errors, and I'll use like there, especially like grammatically. I understand the difference of theirs, but I'm just typing, right? I'm not even thinking about it. And so some people say, there with the Y or apostrophe R, and it's like they're correcting me, like I don't understand the concepts. It's like, if you're only going to point out that I made a typo, you're wasting my fucking time. If you don't think after 49 years of me writing and taking English and being able to type that I don't understand the differences between there, and there, you're just being a semantic. You're just arguing semantics, and you're just not even semantics. You're just being a grammar Nazi.
It's pedantry. It's pedantry.
It's pedantry, and I don't deal with that, right? People think I'm a pedant, which I think is kind of comical. If you want my honest opinion, you want to think of a pedant, God bless you. But
I bust your chops about that all the time.
Yeah, I'm so not, because I do.
I gotta tell you, it really pisses me off to hear that you can type 60 words a minute. Because I'm one of those people that, like, when oftentimes when I do an email, because I'm 55 and people don't correspond like they used to anymore. So oftentimes when I send an email, I'll make it just like a letter, and I'll, hey, how you doing? And just format it like a letter and everything. I'll send Steve an email, link the email, and I'll get a 2-word response back. Because he is so matter of fact,
that's true. Now, okay, I want everybody to weigh on this, and Reg, you can even weigh on as well, because I probably have more private conversations and quality time with you than anybody else. Do I not, even in private, do I not often just try to stick with the facts? Do I not sound like a rational, logical person? Do I not argue the same way in private as I do in public? Otherwise, I will kick you.
I would say no stress. But as someone who just got here, can I ask who's wrong on the internet this time?
We're not talking about specific people. We're talking about just in general, the skeptic community, which is so not full of skeptics anymore. I think that I think was it John that pointed out, or Ethan? One of these people here pointed out very precisely that they think skepticism is merely not agreeing with somebody and then parroting some other argument that they think they've heard.
No, that's
was me.
The Mr. Atheist approach. And by the way, anyone who takes the Mr. Atheist approach can suck a fat one. But
Reds has issues with Jimmy, as you can tell.
The fact remains, it's exactly what I said yesterday. If people don't want to understand what you're actually saying and don't have the goddamn common courtesy to ask for clarification, they can basically let them eat cake at that point.
Yeah, well, and that's been my position for a very long time. I've only enforced it recently because as I am growing, I am getting more, whether you call it notoriety or publicity or whatever, and I have more people come to the community. I have to become more like that. I just don't have the time, the patience, the wherewithal to have these base level fruit on the ground discussions. This type of discussion that we have with you people in here is what I thrive on. Good, bad, or indifferent, agree with me, disagree with me, I don't give a shit. But they're the actual discussions that people can listen to, I can learn from, I can be a part of, I can add to the conversation. Some people just cannot do that, though, or don't want to, which is fine.
Well, they choose not to because they'll disagree with with whatever fucking sandbox that they found themselves in which case your best bet in those situations, especially for those that are actively threatening you as a response to you not agreeing with them, just block their sorry asses and move on.
Well, and I've had to. Somebody the other day said, "Hey, Steve, why don't you like unblock everybody and see what happens?" And you know as well as I do firsthand the reasons why there's certain people I will never unblock. But I mean, it's look. I've had people say to me, and it's true stories. I've had people come to me and say, on like Facebook, I haven't had them blocked, but I blocked them on Twitter, and they said like, "Hey, Steve, you blocked me on Twitter. I didn't really mean that. Let's work it out. Will you unblock me?" And I've kindly done so. Okay, more than one occasion. So. I there's not like I will not change my position or I won't reconsider a matter, but there are times where it's just not effective for me to keep something around that is not adding to the dialogue, but causing discourse, causing more harm to the community, more harm to me. That's not providing anything of value. I mean, everybody on that side of the fence for that whole rationality rules thing, I don't really have anything to do with any of them, right? I've had them all blocked long before that even happened, right? So except for like one or two, and even then they blocked me. So whatever, right? It's not the audience that I want to have. I don't want to have the regressive audience. I don't want to have the social justice warrior audience. I want people to feel comfortable. People know that they're not going to get attacked for who they are. They're going to get attacked for what they claim or they believe or they promote, right? That's not the same thing. And if you don't have a thick skin, people conflate the two, right? When somebody says I'm wrong about a particular issue, I don't take that personally. I don't think they're coming after me personally, right?
No. Well, here's the thing though. When it's not that you're taking it personally, it's that they're taking it personally.
Of course.
Well,
Yeah.
that was exactly what I was talking about earlier with the cognitive dissonance. I think we call ourselves a group of skeptics or free thinkers. I think that's pretty much the diametric opposite to the actual truth. We're all essentially here. Well, not all of us. The vast majority are here for entertainment on the internet. You find a channel you like, they spout rhetoric that you like, and you become emotionally involved in that argument because it's a fandom. And even with Mr. Atheist and the spat you guys have had, I don't think he fucking thinks all those things. I think that he made it pretty clear. He said, right, I'm sick of losing subscribers for being sensitive to trans issues. So in other words, he's sick of
I don't get that, and I don't get that. Yeah, by the way, he has been losing subscribers very steadily, but look how many subscribers he has, and it's been tapering off, and I think
that's because you don't want the SJW crowd around you. He got a lot of his platform from appearing on Non Sequitur. Yeah. He tries to talk about SJW talking points, and that's not his demographic audience.
I don't even understand.
Look.
That statement, because here's the thing: if you're a person that's going to say, "I am tired of losing subscribers because of the way I think,"
that's weird.
What's he trying to say? Is he trying to say I'm going to modify my thinking?
Yeah, that's the way I subscribe. So here's the thing. Let me go on record.
Sorry, Steve. Can I just finish? That was the final point to that. Yeah. I think, as per Dusty Smith, what Mr. Atheist is doing is saying, right, I'm not having any luck trying to preach to this choir. Here, let me change my rhetoric and preach to another choir. It's a business decision. It's not a decision about.
By the way, I'm not going to say who, and I'm not going to say what it's about. But there is somebody on that side of the fence who, not more than a couple months ago, was spewing the completely opposite story, and they changed they went 180, and never mentioned some of the comments they used to leave that were 180 from there now. It'll happen one of these days. But it's bizarre, right? Because they did pander to a different audience, and it was clear that they did, right? Now let me make it very clear, and I want to go on record. I do not have anything against Mr. Atheist. Okay, we have some personality clashes. I get that. I do not agree with him on many things. I wish him the best. No ill will whatsoever. I don't even have him blocked, right? I mean, there's no reason to. It's just that I don't really cater his audience. I've seen his audience do some really weird shit. I mean, there was one episode where they got upset for Kyle for him using the term man bun. That's how aggressive they are, right? That's sexist. I don't want that group around my channel. So I don't want 150,000 subs of people that are just that regressive and that this tense, right? But I'm very happy that he got his audience. I wish him, Godspeed. I don't particularly watch this stuff because they're all about Girl Interrupted, and I don't give a shit. But I don't want people to think that I have personal issues with people that I don't have personal issues with. He may have a personal issue with me. Hang on, let me finish. I do not know. I don't know. But I want to go on record. I have no personal issue with Jimmy whatsoever. I even had somebody argue the other day, or not even argue, but they were saying that, hey, look at Shannon and Steve. They're fighting, they're pissing each other off. No, Shannon and I, most of the time we're on Twitter, we're also DMing with each other. I love Shannon to death. She could do no wrong in my eyes, right? I could never be mad at Shannon. But people see this on Twitter and they think, oh, look, even Steve and Shannon are having a spat. Well, no, that's just the way we communicate on Twitter.
Hey, wait a minute. So it's not a man bun? It's not a man bun?
Like I said,
sexual appropriation. General said man buns are sexual appropriation. Reg, what you got?
Steve, it's exactly what I said yesterday to you, though. Even though in reality you may have no ill will towards any of these guys, they're going to keep spouting bullshit in your direction.
Of course they do.
it's probably better to just block them. That's why I said yesterday.
I can't block somebody for having a different opinion, right?
No, you can't block them for having a different opinion, but to go so far as to call you transphobic and then people.
Well, I mean, you're right, and I mean, I think Jimmy crossed the line when he called me a liar, said I was deleting comments and transphobic. Yes, and I would, and normally most cases I probably would have eventually blocked somebody for that, but I know that I don't think he's in a good place right now. I don't want to add to that with him. I'd rather just extricate myself from that altogether. People know I'm not transphobic. People know that I'm not a liar, and people know that I have not deleted any comments. Matter of fact, he didn't apologize for that. People are always about apologies. I never fucking get an apology for shit, you know.
Hey, on the subject of people just throwing that word transphobic at you over this disagreement, I want to say that on your other channel, the Great Debate Community YouTube channel, sometime this weekend, I'm going to have some people on, and we are going to talk about the weaponization of social media.
I love that. Do it.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
If you guys have not,
vacation, guys, so I'm going to have to go. So
all right, thank you, bud. Yeah, go enjoy your vacation. Peace, brother.
Yeah.
I have a question to ask you, but I'm going to ask you off air, and I'll just text it to you later. Okay.
Okay.
You don't have to don't go out of your way to like stay up for it, but get back to me tomorrow on it. Okay.
Got it.
All right. Yeah. So if you have not subscribed to the Great Debate Community, it has been a dead channel for a while. But I'm trying to at least revitalize a little bit. People that want to run a hangout on that particular channel that I know they can do so. John has been doing a wonderful job. He's learning how to mod, doing a great job on that, and having some great discussions. I actually entertain myself by listening to that. So I will listen. I've listened to his hangouts. So yeah, Don, please do that. And if you haven't subscribed, the link is in the video description, I think. If not, you can go to any one of my videos and get it. Just type in Great Debate Community on YouTube. But anyways, I don't know where we're at. Yeah. So anyways,
I wanted to say one thing real quick.
Yes, Ethan.
So I am a self-professed progressive liberal, and I own that. I'm as progressive as hell. I can't fathom in any way how man bun could be sexist, and I just wanted to say,
if I know.
I don't get it. Don't get it. I don't know.
Because you're assuming Jimmy's gender.
Well, because they go out of their way to find something. One sec. They go out of their way to find something to be offended about, right? It's like they really have to just feel like everything's a trigger to them. And here's the thing. I don't know if it was May that brought this up or somebody did. It could have been May, but whoever it was, it was right on. That when you start to get triggered by everything, when everything is a personal affront to you, when everything is going to cause you a problem or dysphoria or some issue, right? Then perhaps being in these conversations is not the best place for you, right? And now people have said, well, Steve, does that mean you should they're telling people not to be in conversations and you're excluding them? No. What I'm saying is that, one, if you're going to be emotionally triggered all the time, then you cannot have the actual discussion. Then what are you bringing to the table? And two, people, and I hate to say it, but people are going to be turned off by that. They're not going to want to have the conversations that need to be taking place because they don't want to deal with somebody who's that emotional. They just don't.
Well, here's what I'm going to say is the other side to that.
Okay.
I'm cis, I'm white, I'm straight, whatever. But what I have witnessed with people that I do know who are gay and trans and non-binary and everything else under the sun, they spend their lives being victimized in school growing up or even by their families, that sort of thing. And I think that the audience of social media, audience isn't the right word, but the sphere of social media can amplify that. And, here they are putting their thoughts and in social media, of course, my social media threads are way more important than everyone else's because they're my thoughts, right? And so as soon as something comes in and pokes that needle into their bubble, it's an affront. And even if it's just us as creators presenting something, they still can see it as a needle into their bubble.
Okay, I can't disagree with you. Okay, but let me add this. There are different ways to present your bubble kind of thing. For example, people know that I hang out with Brittany Simon, who is a very left-wing, feminist, progressive liberal. We get along fantastic, right? So it's not that I can't get along with somebody who has differing views or is a progressive feminist, right? There are not one size fits all. There are toxic people. There are toxic feminists. There are toxic SJW people. She's not one of them. right? Her views, most of them I kind of didn't agree with. I'm not a progressive liberal, but I understand her reasoning for it. I don't have to necessarily even agree with her to understand her. And she presents things in a very easily digestible, very distilled kind of way, because she's trying to distill their world into my world. That's how you effectively can communicate. And so we get along very well, right? We've never had an argument. Well, I mean, not, okay, let me rephrase that. We have arguments all the time, but good kind. We've never had a vitriolic disagreement. You know what I'm saying? It's so funny when I say the word argument. The way I use argument is actually just a dialectic, right? But when people in the general sphere, when they hear the word argument, they think of fight, right? That's one word, again, that could be used. It's polysemous. It can be used two different ways, right? Mm-hmm. So if somebody uses it as a fight, I know what they're meaning. They're not misusing that word. They're not using it incorrectly. This is where, you know, people have to understand. This is where that's the semantic thing. There you go.
Sure.
So what confuses the fuck? Sorry, Ethan, can I?
Oh, I just want to finish up real quick, and then I'm sorry about that. I just want to say, Steve, I'm totally on your side with this. So I didn't want it to come across as that I wasn't. I totally think that, and I call people out on this, so don't think that I don't. I do think people get too sensitive online, and when they get too sensitive, they shut down conversations.
Yes.
And if our goal is to change the hearts and minds and to be progressive and change the world in the way that we'd like to see it happen, we can't shut down conversations.
Exactly. No,
answer tough questions, and we have to ask tough questions.
You get it, right? Exactly. The people that are shutting down the conversation, the people that are like, just, I don't know if they're not emotionally equipped or they just have too much trauma. And again, I'm not faulting them for that. It's not something they have a control over. But if they're going to be using those things as weapons, especially, I don't want to have a conversation with them. I'm not going to have a great conversation with somebody who's trying to weaponize these things that John's going to be talking about, you know, on the Great Debate Unit channel, this very thing. Those are not the people that are adding to the dialogue. Those are the people that are stifling it. I mean,
I agree. I'm done.
Do you want to hang? I mean, would you want to be in a hangout with somebody that's all they're doing is weaponizing things, and all they're doing is making things personal, and all they're doing is saying, "Oh, well, you're invalidating me. Oh, you're doing this to me. It's all about me. It's me.
Yes. I dated her in college. I dumped her.
Oh, okay. So you know her too.
Absolutely.
Okay, gotcha.
Sorry. But Steve, I mean, you recognize the difference between someone that's would be transphobic and someone that might make a transphobic statement. There is a difference in the same way.
Yeah, nobody's ever disagreed with that.
Like someone could be trans and they could still make transphobic statements just based on kind of the culture they're raised in, the their area they're in. They can make certain statements even though they might be trans, and they might make transphobic statements, but they're not transphobic.
Well, let me ask you this:
the criticism against Steve was never that you're transphobe.
Oh no! Wait! Yes, it has been.
Bullshit.
Yeah, manifold. You can't. Yeah, I'm not gonna let you get away with that. Sorry, I love you, bro. Okay. But of course, they straight up said I'm transphobic. Don't try to minimize.
No, I mean, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, people have made that claim, right? But I mean, there's a difference, right? There's a difference between.
But who's saying otherwise? I've always agreed there's a difference. But here's the thing: there's a difference between being a transphobe, saying transphobic things, and even in what you might consider to be transphobic, I don't. What somebody else might be considered, that's all subjective, right? You cannot build a very strong material facts case on subjectivity like that. And that's what I see them doing. A lot of people say, look, that is transphobic statement, no matter what you think. That is where we go, no, wait, time out. Even the most racist comments, some people may not find it to be racist, whatever. But there are certain things I think I see a community come together and go, yes, as a community, I think that we do think this. For example, like when it was Emperor Atheist, I don't see anybody really defending his comments as not racist. I didn't see that.
That's the distinction people are trying to make against rationality rules, right? Because that's why a lot of people that were even in the trans community wanted to give him time to clarify his statements. They weren't saying that, even AC's statement wasn't that he was a transphobe. It was that there was transphobic statements in his comments. And that was something that isn't necessarily to be taken that, oh shit, I need to defend that I'm not transphobic. Is that I'm sorry, these were transphobic statements, like I intentionally made these things and I'm sorry for these statements, and that was it, right? So there's a difference between just saying that someone is a transphobe because the thing is, someone in that community isn't going to criticize someone that's making transphobic statements if they think they're transphobes. I mean, they're just going to ignore transphobes. They're obvious transphobes that hate trans people, that are against trans people, and that, fuck these people. We don't need these people in our community. But when someone gets criticism like rationality rules, or even when you got a certain level of criticism, it's not because they thought you're transphobic.
Yes, it was.
No, hold on. But the people that you consider as friends or that you're close in the community that criticize you, if they thought you're transphobe, that you're anti-trans, I refuse to believe that they would take the time to bring up certain issues, say, hey, look at this issue in a certain way, and realize that this could be a transphobic statement that might actually, bring harm upon our community. But I recognize that you're not a transphobe, but this can happen to anyone. This can happen.
I don't know if I fully agree with you, though. Here's the thing.
I think that's actually just a really naive statement.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Macabre on this one. I think that you're kind of really looking at it very naively as well. Look, when people are saying like, oh, that's a transphobic statement. I don't think rationality rules, in my opinion, really said anything transphobic. Hyperbolic, perhaps, right? Ill-informed on certain things. Granted, I think there's maybe some scientific problems. I think he was making conclusions on incomplete data. But what I consider to be transphobe statement, and what somebody else, and again, it was it May, somebody was saying that, look, at the way we use transphobia in our community, and she was referring to their transgender community, is different how I would use the term, or anybody outside would use the term. And we agree, right? I agree on that. So I don't think what he said is transphobic. Somebody else might. I have never said anything that I.
So you don't think that this could be the death of all females, that couldn't be construed as trans?
No, I think it's hyperbolic. There's a difference. I don't think, to my knowledge, I said anything ever that is transphobic. If I did, it's perceptional, right? I have never gone out of my way to me, a lot of things, and Kyle says it just like this, it's intent, right? If you don't have the intent, then you have to really take that into account. Now, can you say the transphobic things without intent? Yes. Okay. So don't misquote me and say, well, Steve says you have to have intent to have transphobia, or to say something that's transphobic. No, that's not the case. But I have never, that I can see, said anything that I could even remotely construe as transphobic. If you can think of a single sentence I have said that you can more than subjectively point out as transphobic, what have I said?
Well, what would you consider like a bar for a transphobic statement? Would you say that, I am flat out, I think, trans people are ridiculous. This is a mental illness, and
that's trans. I would probably put that in.
So I mean, do you think that this, like, if that's not your statement, if anything else is not transphobic, like you could like
but I've never said anything like that, have I?
No. Can I interject
yes.
something here real quick?
Yeah, John, then
Dave McGinnis makes an interesting point in live chat, and I don't know whether I agree or not, but I'll throw it out there.
Sure.
He says statements are not transphobic. People are. Statements are just right or wrong on their own. Attaching a phobic thing assumes the intent of the statement.
I get what he's. I get.
That in and of itself disagrees with what I was about to say. Manifold. Which one of these two statements do you think is more racist, and which one of these statements do you think is more offensive? Statement 1. I do not believe African Americans should be allowed to vote. Statement 2. Nigger Jim is my favorite Mark Twain character. The issue is that a lot of these people pounce on the nigger Jim sentence because they hear a forbidden word, or they hear something that they can use to affectate a sense of persecution pornography. And I think that it's not just a personal desire, but I think it actually, from a social perspective, actually informs the way we see ourselves sitting in a group.
Right.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
Okay, so you made one example. I'm going to make an example that actually happened, right? So rationality rules actually made kind of the statement that, this is a great threat to every single female sport. So that statement, I don't think rationality rules is you know, a transphobe. Like, I do think he's, you know, he stated over and over that he's pro LGBTQ. He's, you know, he's pro these communities. But that statement, in terms of the way other people look upon it and the way he presented it, that this starts this is a fear that gets perpetuated, and fear is a great motivator. Fear is the number one motivator for humans in terms of the way they act. So when some people watch that video and start, holy shit, you know, fucking trans people, you know, there's going to be a bunch of, you know, fucking Brock Lesnar, Mark Henry, they're just going to say one day, shit, I'm a woman, I'm going to start, you know, bench pressing world records and killing people in MMA, that they start developing a psychological aspect and beyond rationality, beyond a debate format, that they subconsciously develop a kind of a transphobic response in their brain. Like, it's not necessarily.
I think you're jumping to conclusions here. And first of all, there was a lot of trans. By the way, who has the music in the background? I don't. I've got a TV on the background. Who has that? Can you turn that down, please? Thank you. So here's the thing. There's a lot of transgenders that didn't find anything that rationale rules said offensive. A lot of them, right? And one of them, I don't know if she said she found anything really offensive or not, but she had the brilliant video on it. It was Sarah, I think her name's Sarah Michaels or Sarah Michelle. Rationality Rules actually included her in his last video, and I just recently found her before Rationality Rules.
But you realize that's irrelevant, right? Like,
well, I mean, no, it's not irrelevant. I disagree. It's not irrelevant.
Look at black people like commit. Like, look, there's people you can find.
Hang on. No. It's not irrelevant. Let me explain why, Manifold. This is a subjective argument. These are things that people, and Dave McGinnis points out. Now, I don't fully agree. I think comments can be racist and can be transphobic. However, it is up to the individual to really be the person that takes offense. I think it's not so much that the words cannot be transphobic words or racist words, but statements cannot take umbrage, right?
Do you think offense is the issue?
Yes.
I don't think so.
All right.
So do you think people that had an issue with Rationality Rules video was that, you know, my biggest issue was I just took offense with it. I just felt bad when I watched it.
I didn't.
I understood the influence that this video could have.
Yeah, I didn't.
You
don't think the major complaint against that video was
I will bet dollars to
that video can have upon society, not that
I will bet dollars to donuts. Two things, Manifold, and I want to get your guys' opinion on this, right, wrong, or indifferent. Two things I'll bet. One, Rationality's Rules brought more dialogue about this particular topic than anything else that's happened in our community, bar none, on this particular topic. It raised the dialogue. It caused people to have a conversation. People are having this. Let me finish. Okay, so people are having this conversation. There's a one overall net gain. Two, I guarantee that if certain people, especially Essence of Thought and that whole Maddie crowd over there, those regressive left-wing completely nutters at this point, if they had not said anything, it would have been just a blip in the radar. This was, I think, in a way, what's called a Barbra Streisand effect. Do you know what that is? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Ethan, do you know what Barbra Streisand effect is? Do you remember the story?
I do.
You might be my age. I mean, you sound like you're not a kid.
No. I don't. It didn't happen like when I was aware.
Okay.
But I just.
Do you know what it is?
Yeah, she said. I forget what she said, but she said something. Like 20 years ago or something, and then people found out about it, or
what she was trying to. Right? People had posted where she lived.
Right.
Somebody had posted where she lived, and only like 5 people saw it. You know, but she did. She made a big issue about it, and all of a sudden, millions of people now saw it. Right? It had a backfiring effect, and so I think if they had not said anything, it just would have never been another video by Rationale Rules and forgotten about 3 weeks.
But a lot of terrible things lead to maybe positive outcomes due to the backlash, but that does not make those things still, you know, a good thing, right?
Well, but again, I really strongly believe those two things are the case. Does anybody agree with me or disagree with that? Cobb, would you say that
it's possible? No, even I agree that it's possible. Okay.
Sure.
I think it's the wrong way to go about it, Steve. I agree with you, but I think it's the wrong approach.
And that might be whatever.
Yes.
That's my view.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not going to argue that point, right? But it's still a truism. I think those two things are actually true. But yeah, I have no problem with them doing what they did and stuff like that. But the way they went about it, they didn't attack what rationality was saying. What they did was they tried to vilify him. Bad way to go about it. Very bad way. I mean, to me, it backfired on them spectacularly.
And I think further to the point, like what Thunderfoot said in regard to, all those American politicians saying, let's teach creation and evolution in the classroom and let the kids decide. I mean, this shit is never. This is not settled in common parlance. These sort of issues are settled in the laboratory.
How do you wrap your head around that? How can somebody actually think that's a good idea?
Well, I'm saying that this issue was analogous because Manifold is saying it could have terrible effects, and I'm thinking, well, wait a fucking second. I'm not a geneticist. I'm not an endocrinologist. If someone's going to settle this issue, it's going to be in a laboratory, not amongst us. So until that point, us discussing whether we're for or against it is simply just, discussing an idea, or at worst, flinging shit at each other.
Fair point. Yeah, but here's
a non-issue.
Here's the thing. As of to date, and if anybody has this link, please let me know. But I don't think anybody's brought an actual scientist on, or scientist. I think it requires more than one. I don't think this is a thing where we have one expert come on. I think this is something that requires multiple experts with differing opinions to talk about, the effects of transgender in sports. That topic has gone by the wayside. And
you have read the scientific paper, "Sport and Transgender People Are Systemic."
Look at. I know. Yes, I know that paper. Look at there's been pros and cons of all these papers. Some people say these papers are written by bias. Some people saying the papers weren't correct. I mean, so you cannot just have one source on something along these lines, right?
You need a bigger body of work.
You need a much bigger body of work, right? Yeah, I agree. Yes. And yes, I do know exactly what paper you're referring to.
But in the meantime, there's real people that.
And how big was that study? I think they had
affected about participating in their sports, right? So someone that's transgender that has gone through a year of HRT, that has gone through the entire process, and they're wanting to compete in high school sports, college sports because.
But Manifold, hang on one second.
They're affected about.
No, you have to differentiate. You see, this is the problem I'm seeing. There's a conflation going on. A lot of this stuff is talking about professional sports, and all of a sudden we're going back to high school sports, right? What Rationality Rules was talking about was professional sports more than anything, right?
So what trans women are dominating professional sports?
Well, again, we're not going to get into the nuances. And people know the stories, Fallon Fox.
Why is that nuance? That's the reality of the world we live in, right?
Well, the reality is that we have to take these things into consideration.
Trans women are dominating cis sports, right?
Well, yeah, in certain areas they are. I mean, come on.
Name one professional sports where trans woman is dominating.
Again, Fallon, the one person just got stripped of 4 medals because she was dominating. She won 4 medals, she broke 4 records.
In a professional sport, the world
weightlifting is a professional sport. U.S. powerlifting.
Right. So we're talking about overall world records, not age restrictions.
Okay, but Manifold, this is where I really, really think people jump the shark. You're like saying, well, it's only a small group. It's not even world records. It's these records. It doesn't matter if they're dominating against their competitors. That's the problem.
So the issues that a trans woman is successful at a certain sport that they've won in a
not to this degree. You don't see statistical outliers of that. It's not that, like, dude, here's the thing. This is what bothers me. They're saying, well, you only upset if they win. No, it is that certain people, because the fact they are transgender has given them advantage. That was, I think, the argument that ran around.
Because they're transgender, not because they're better.
Because they're transgender has given them an advantage.
Not because they're better.
Not specifically because they're better. Not to that degree. We don't see statistically somebody breaking 4 powerlifting records as a cisgender woman, right? I mean, come on. It's just so mind-boggling to think that somebody is going to be that case. No,
but to make the statement that they're breaking records because they're transgender takes a leap, right?
No, it doesn't. Do you think that she would have broke 4 records if she had not been transgendered? Yes or no?
If she wasn't transgender, if she maintained her competition among males?
If she was lifting against women, do you think she would have broken those records? Mary Gregor.
I don't know.
You don't know, really? I mean, come on. We have to be honest here, man. This is about honest dialogue. Do you think?
I honestly don't know enough about this to comment on.
And that's fine. No, I dude. Yeah, look, if somebody's not aware of Mary Gregor, then you really can't weigh in. But Mary Gregor is a transgender powerlifter that broke 4 powerlifting records in the female classes. They stripped her of those records, right? The USA powerlifting organization even said that this was a case where it was unfair competition, right? And I'm asking somebody a very direct question. Do you think that if she wasn't transgender, that would not have been the case? Now, this is a outlier. I get this, right? And this is why I think that rationality rules has some hyperbolic language. But to sweep the actual instances under the rug like Dusty does and some other people doesn't help the conversation.
Okay, so hold on.
What evidence though did they base stripping her of those records?
Well, there's a couple different things. One of the things for the the IOC rules is that you have to be on HRT therapy for more than 2 years or more. She was on for 11 months. Okay. That could have been the case, but my argument after that point was even another year wouldn't have made much of a difference, if any, right? But still, the fact that it's given her, by their words, an unfair advantage because she went through puberty, she transitioned late, she had all the benefits of being biologically male for many, many years prior to her getting into competition and transitioning. This has to be unfair advantage. They recognize this. So it's not transphobic to say there's unfair advantage there in this particular case. And you can't just sweep it under the rug. Now, again, the rejoinder to that, people told me, well, she didn't fully transition because she had 11 months rather than 2 years. That's a really kind of a weak argument to me, though.
She also competed in a master's division. She doesn't hold any world records.
Why is that relevant? Television. She could have been she could have been Pee Wee League as long as it was if you have unfair competitions against your competitors, there's a problem.
The reason it's relevant because there's a lot of different factors that can be involved in masters leagues, right? For example, a lot of elite competitors that might be non-transgender might have retired by the point that they reach masters, so they're not competing in the masters levels league because they chose to raise a family, have kids. So someone that transgenders later might actually have been training and continue training at a different level. They might just be better at that age. Okay. There's a lot of people actually in masters league that didn't perform. There's a lot of people in masters
outlier
league
like four.
There's a lot of champions in masters league that weren't champions before that are champions in Master League that are not transgender, that are in a lot of different sports, that are not transgenders, that weren't elite athletes prior, but they are because of different circumstances. They didn't have families. They were able to train to a different level.
Can I just chime in quickly? Sorry, can I just chime in quickly?
I think you're really not really being honest here.
I think that
real quick, hold on.
Intentionally ignorance of one thing. One really big thing is how much has the HTR affected their body, because if you look at Fallon Fox, it is a fucking fact that women cannot get that sort of muscle definition without being below about 5% body fat, which is not where you'd want to fight at, or B, are a man.
This is the same argument that was made against Serena Williams in tennis, that she's a man. She's like she has a chopped off dick.
No, Manifold. You ignored what I said. You ignored what I said. Look at the muscle definition on Fallon Fox. Look at female pro bodybuilders. Female pro bodybuilders who are natural. They cannot achieve the physique of Fallon Fox. Fallon Fox has the body of a biological man.
Okay, I just have one really quick question before we move forward. Was she, because I don't know anything about this, was she open about her transgender status? Like, was that a trans before? Okay, all right, that's all I need to know.
So what elite fighters has Fallon Fox defeated?
Fallon Fox got her ass whooped in the UFC.
She only lost one, I think, though.
Yeah. So I mean, pretty much like Christina Cyborg would have probably dismantled Fallon Fox.
Okay, so fighting amongst fighters with a skill level.
So causing an injury in MMA doesn't mean shit.
Manifold.
That happens in MMA all the time.
This is why I can't take certain people, and I'm not trying to diss any Manifold. This is why I cannot.
Your argument was that the problem is that she caused an injury, right? That she caused an injury in MMA.
But do you really honestly believe that her dominance, that her transition?
What dominance has she had?
She broke somebody's jaw, a female. Every woman that fought her, or just about every woman that fought her, said that she punches harder than any woman that they've ever gone against. So let me ask you this, Manifold. Again, be honest. Do you or do you not think that her being transgender did anything to give her an advantage? Yes or no? Be honest. And don't weasel around and do an I don't know. You can, but come on.
Okay, so
I do believe that it did give you.
no, okay. No, I will give you an honest. I'll give you
Yes or no?
No, I'll give you an honest answer. If she went through the exact amount of time of hormone replacement therapy, and what the science shows, that is the amount of time for to transition, and for transgender athletes to not show an advantage over any other athlete, then absolutely,
That's
I
a
don't
fucking
think she had an
cop-out.
advantage.
Yeah,
No, but that's
a
the
fucking
scientific
cop-out.
papers show that.
No, they don't.
No. What you essentially said is, I'm just assuming if she takes hormones long enough, she's going to be no different to any
Right,
women.
and I don't believe that. I don't believe
This is what the
Can they
scientific
ever get there?
conclusion shows.
No, it doesn't.
It's not a
Bullshit.
conclusion. It is
Bullshit.
speculation.
There is no conclusion on this. I'm sorry, but there are still people out there that have said many times there is no long-term studies on this. There's no conclusive evidence. Everything I've ever read says there's still a lot of research to be done in this field, and nothing is conclusive.
Okay,
no
so basically,
I've seen there's conclusive consilience or any kind of among experts on this. None.
Okay.
Wait, let me ask you. Do you say there's a consensus on this right now?
I just know the scientific studies that are currently
That's not
available.
my question. Is there a scientific consensus on this?
I don't know. But
Well,
there's a consensus. There's the studies that I can view.
Yeah, I think as Addiction Master pointed out, you cannot gain everything you need to know of one particular study.
And I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
Before we
It
continue,
was it was a meta-analysis of multiple studies. It wasn't
Right, that's right, and that was my point. It wasn't meta-analysis, but they were very small sample studies.
I think one thing we've got to clarify.
So you're
first
just not
is the
satisfied with
Fallon-Fox
that
issue.
study.
No,
Dude, you don't place your entire thing off one study. That's not how it's done.
No, but a meta-analysis necessarily is not a single.
Do you understand that these are small sample sizes? There's not enough long-term studies. There's just not enough long-term data to be had there. Okay, we don't know. But go ahead, McCobb.
I'm going to say we're again obfuscating from what the studies show that this hormone level is down here and this hormone level is up here, or they might have this much muscle density. I mean, what it really boils down to is how do they perform? I mean, if we had a sufficiently large sample, would there be more transgender athletes coming out on top that is greater than statistically probable?
Yeah,
that is greater than chance. Second to that, we got to clarify that Fallon-Fox. It was a broken skull. The whole fight lasted 32.
It was a broken orbital bone.
That's a skull.
Well, that's common. That is fucking common.
No. The whole Manifold, shut up for a sec. It was a 32-second fight. Fallon-Fox got this poor woman in the clinch. This woman did not have the sufficient strength nor size to get out, and Fallon just slammed her head against.
It was completely
unbalanced. Big deal. What does that prove?
That it was not an equal fight.
There's mismatches in sports and MMA all the fucking time.
I gotta tell you, man, I think
that?
you're sticking your head in the ground. I honestly do. God bless you, brother.
No.
But I'm just going to be on the opposite side of the fence.
I mean,
you realize.
Hold on, Manifold.
You know anything about MMA?
Manifold. Hold on. In Manifold's defense, what was the boxer back in the 90s? Mike Tyson. He had some fights that were less than a minute.
Yeah, but he wasn't trans. Yeah, but he
two men going. It was two heavyweights.
They were in the same class. I mean, at least they were saying.
What I'm saying is just because
but this is
not dispositive of anything necessarily.
But this is about whataboutism. This is like saying, well, because this can happen over here, this wasn't the case here.
No, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying just because the fight was a short fight, that doesn't necessarily prove the point that you guys are trying to make.
No,
I mean,
it's
evidence. But
it's definitely evidence. And when the experts, the people that have been saying, for example, when Mary Grogan got her things taken away, the experts said this. It was a completely what was the word? They had a body of people that came together. Whatever the USA powerlifting team is. I guess they had a board. I guess
rules committee or something.
Rules committee. Thank you. I'll go rules committee. I was trying to think of whatever they were. They all came together, and it was ubiquitous. So that they all agree that this was unfair advantage.
No, wasn't that based on rules because she was taking HRT and that's illegal, not because she had an unfair advantage?
Whatever it was gave her an unfair advantage. Whatever it was, she had an unfair advantage, and if she wasn't transgender, none of that would have happened.
Who wasn't the ruling was because she was taking the hormone replacement therapies, not because that she necessarily had an unfair advantage.
I think that's a difference without a distinction.
That our current
because
by
when you're transgender female taking like an estrogen, that diminishes your performance, right? So it's not necessarily performance.
But you still, but even Noel Plum points out, you still have the inherent biological fact that you went through puberty as a male. That's going to give you an advantage to what you normally would have been had you not had that. I think people really are looking past this term unfair advantage, and they don't want to see it. And I'm sorry, I will side on rationality rule side on this. I think that there is unfair advantage. That's not transphobic. I think that that has to be looked at rationally, and then talk to the experts to see what is.
So the experts say that after a period of time, there is no advantage.
There's no study. There's no consilience of studies that says this.
Okay, so if there's no study that says that, then why are you saying the opposite? Why are you making the claim that there is an advantage if you're saying there is no study?
Because in certain cases there are advantages. Overall, there's still a lot of studies to be done, but we have recognized there are in certain cases they have determined there was unfair.
But you're asserting that there's an advantage, regardless of the fact that there's some studies that satisfy.
Because they've determined there's an unfair advantage.
And they determined that there isn't. The studies I look at determined that there isn't.
Those studies, for some reason, aren't the ones that are being promoted by the actual sports groups, because I don't think those studies read the way you want them to read.
There's different justifications why different people get eliminated, not necessarily because they have a performance advantage.
Can I get in here real quick?
Yes.
The last hangout you had, Steve, on this topic, Mae Bowen was there, and I remember her sharing with us that some of the hormone protocol that she's on right now. She said that even in a short period of time, she can feel that her strength is getting less, and I mean, she can feel the effects of the hormones that she's on. I mean, isn't it true that once they do fully transition and go through that hormone therapy, that they do, lose certain aspects of being male? I mean,
well, I mean that can get into a lot of different things. I don't agree with May on certain things. I think that, for example, you can obviously lose muscle mass. Your fine muscle control can change. Your quick twitch can change as opposed to your short. There's a lot of factors, but certain things are more advantages for male. Bone density can change. It can give you osteoporosis. I understand all that stuff, but my argument is still, I think that there's still an overall net advantage to yourself and to your competitors if you have a biological male. Here's the thing, and even, I'm pretty sure May agrees with this. You cannot change your biological sex no matter what. There's no surgery that can do it. There's no hormones that can do it. You can maybe minimize the effects. I'll grant that, right? But hormones are not the solution to everything. I don't think that the way I get May argues that hormones and endocrinology is the be all end all. I don't particularly see that. I'm not skilled enough to make any kind of really judgment on it. I just don't believe it because I don't have enough evidence to the contrary. Because there are certain things that I don't think hormones have any effect on. A hormone is just a protein. It's just a regulatory protein that does certain things to function and to do certain things. And so when you have things like, hand size, respiratory oxygen levels, your saturation, your hemoglobin levels,
those decrease.
One study I saw, Steve, did demonstrate that those measurements do drop in line with what a biological.
They do drop.
Some of them do might. Look at May says something that I think is kind of true. We're a lot more androgynous than we like to realize. I don't disagree with her on that. But there are still some fundamental distinctions to be had, right? A male can never become a biological female, no matter whatever happens in medicine. It's just not something that's just physically possible. It's a physical limitation, right?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Who are you?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Hello?
Sorry, new YouTube channel. Who's this?
New phone? Who this?
Yeah.
Hey, so it's
Hi,
maybe
guys.
is the issue then that all men are not created equal? So maybe it depends. So maybe it depends on.
It's got in private time. I'll show you. No.
Maybe it depends on what your physicality as a male was before you transition.
Possibly.
So there's an issue. There's an issue with the argument that was being made earlier in that it was sexist as fuck. Part of this part of this argument is that trans women are just going to be better at women in these sports. They're not, factually. That is an incredibly sexist argument.
I actually think that's already a straw man.
Okay,
Hold on,
me
let her
finish.
finish
All
her.
right, let her finish. Hang on. I
And
want to know where she's going with
the reason is that using male and female as qualifiers isn't good enough. Period. It doesn't work. It does not function that way. The issue with a weightlifter is that the women's weightlifting classes go up to a certain number and then plus, and they go onward.
Mm-hmm.
That was the problem. Had there been another weight class for them to go compete against, then it would have been perfectly fine. The issue is that we're unnecessarily segregating men and women when everybody can just go by other qualifiers. If your legs are a certain length in running, you compete against other people with that leg length. If you're a certain weight class, you fight in that weight class. You do not need to have it separated by male and female.
How would that apply in a sport like tennis?
I want to touch on some things like this because I don't think Cheshire is making a bad argument, but I want to break it down a little bit more. Yeah. Generally speaking, because we've never had to deal with these types of things before. I mean, before we had modern medicine, these were non-factors, right? People couldn't transition. And so we are now as a society being forced to evaluate things in uncharted waters. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
I have no issue with co-ed type stuff. I have no issue with men competing against females if that's their choice, right? I mean, this is about people, but in professional sports where it's a business. One thing, and two,
yes,
you don't always have a choice, right? If you get into a professional choice, say, I don't want to compete against people that are not my gender. I feel like there's a disadvantage there. They're going to probably may take that as being phobic, which is not, but there's not exactly a lot of opportunities for women in a male dominated sports, right?
So a really good example.
I don't care if they were. I say go for it.
So a really good example of this that I like to use is women's hockey, specifically Canadians women's hockey. Women's hockey in Canada is brutal as fuck. They are more aggressive. They are more. They're fast.
Before.
They are way more. Yeah, exactly. But what happens is when Canada trains for when the Canadian teams are training for the Olympics, the men and the women's team train together, and they train against each other and with each other. And the women win sometimes, and sometimes the men win. Why? Because the qualifier isn't whether or not they're male or female, it's how good they are at the sport. Yeah. Now, there are different sports that will have to have different kinds of qualifiers, like tennis. Tennis would be a weird one because you would have to have a different kind of qualifier. I don't know what that qualifier would need to be for tennis. I'm not well enough. Yeah, exactly. I'm not knowledgeable enough in tennis in particular.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you.
With boxing, it's easy to say because they already do it by weight class.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a bad way to go. And I think you're right. I think the problem is right now there hasn't been enough diversification
and then what you would do,
in divisions. And
then what you would do is you would have if you still wanted to just be okay, well, which woman is the best woman? What you would then do is figure out what qualifiers you would need to classify that, and then you would have something more what the NHL does. And what the NHL does is the NHL has their all-star competition, and the all-star competition is just okay, well, we have all the forwards playing against each other based on where they're from. And you would do that. You would just do that.
I think it's a start, right? It's a start.
For tennis, they could do it by serve speed.
But see, women make excellent surfers, right? But here's the thing: that's the conversation that should have been talked about from day one, right?
Well, yeah, and that's the problem. The problem is that there's one of the problems. There's a few, but one of the problems is that a lot of this is being made to be a trans issue when it's. And that people are transphobic when the issue is that people are sexist.
No. I disagree. This is not about trans. This is about sports.
Yes,
now, I'm not a sports fan. I will be the first person to admit that. And people can say, well, then Steve, you don't have a dog in the fight, but you don't like sports. You're not trans. So what? I still have an opinion. Right. I really can't stand when somebody says, well, why weigh in on something if you don't have a dog in the fight? Because we still have opinions, right?
If you're not black, why weigh in on black people's rights?
I mean, it's just weird to me.
What the fuck? What kind of bizarre statement?
But I can understand the need to have competitiveness. Like, for example, I'm military. Men and women, certain things in the military can compete very well with each other. Right. They cannot, right? If you get two sharpshooters, I tell you what, man, that woman's going to take your eye out probably faster than a male.
Yeah. Okay? Well, and just to say that, well, the women have less bone density or whatever you're going to say.
So in terms of
there's a difference because that women will have advantage in other areas.
Yeah.
Having an advantage in one area doesn't mean that you fully have
totally agree.
higher advantage.
Listen, look, I'd be happy to have combat ready women fight behind me or next to me or in front of me, just like I would a man. In some cases, more so.
Stand behind me.
Yeah, I mean, at least I get to fraternize a little bit. But yeah, no, nobody can. One sec.
I had a major issue with Shesh's argument, though.
Okay, one second.
In terms of integrating male and female sports, co-ed, like in terms of bringing that up as an issue versus integrating trans people, which are 0.6 of the population percentage wise of our extreme minority of the population, what do you think is more pragmatic, discussing integrating sports in terms of male and female, or just allowing trans people into their their sports into
So what I'm saying by when you integrate something like that and use something else as the qualifier, you remove whether or not they're trans as an issue entirely. So they can compete wherever they want. They just compete in whatever weight class they're in.
Issue, right? 0.6% of the population.
That's not relevant. It doesn't matter how many there are.
Well, it matters in terms of how you're what kind of policies you're proposing, right?
No, because I'm proposing policies that are completely irrelevant to whether or not they're trans or not.
Yeah, then that's what I'm saying is at least a viable option, at least for now.
Integrating all sports is not going to happen right now. You realize that?
What? Well, no, that's not.
What the fuck are you talking? What does that have to do with anything?
I think you went from A to Z to potato.
So if you want to include,
listen, it's not viable right now. So let's not talk about potential solutions.
No, integrating male and female into sports right now, it's not going to happen right now. But allowing trans people to compete in the sports, they need to.
Nobody's disallowing them to compete. The contention is about whether or not they're competing fairly.
Right.
That is the contention.
Right.
So why wouldn't they why are they not competing fairly?
Oh my God!
By removing whether or not it being a male or a female is part of it. Are you hello?
This is why I can't. This is why
it's a fucking joke.
I was like, and Manifold's a cool dude. I don't know why he's being so intellectually dishonest right now. I mean, it's like, where have you been?
When at any point did I say no, don't, in my argument about doing things this way instead, did I say that trans people shouldn't be allowed to play in anything at all?
No, I'm not saying you said that.
Then why?
Then what's your argument?
Okay, so my argument is that in the current system, we should let trans people participate in sports in the way the system is currently.
But it's not
Who
working.
Said they shouldn't compete?
But it's not working exactly the way it's working.
Changing the system in terms
the system needs to change.
Implementing a co-ed and changing the way it's differentiated in terms of different sports among height, weight division, and just co-eding sports. I think that's a far bigger step than just allowing,
Right, but if the goal is to make the sport fair, then you need to make whatever changes need to be made to allow trans people to play and keep the sport fair.
Yes.
But that has been made, hasn't it? In terms of that there's
a
Manifold. If this was not an issue, people wouldn't be talking about it. You're making
you're asking why are we talking about the issue if it's not an issue, but we're talking about an issue.
So in the Olympic Games, trans people have been allowed for quite a long time under certain guidelines. The amount of time they have been under HRT, right, hormone replacement therapy, like it requires there are regulations in certain sports for quite a long period of time.
Right.
This isn't a brand new
certain sports, it's not as critical.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Somebody had a question about my argument. It's just a waste of time.
Funny,
just on chess for a few.
And it's actually why I do agree with Manifold in this instance. I think that, since 2004, trans people have been allowed in the Olympics. You know what? They make up 0.6% of the population. So if a statistically significant amount of them are coming out as gold medal winners, then maybe it's something we have to address. Otherwise, let's ignore it. And Sheshi, I think that it's not dishonest, but I think it's a bit short-sighted to conflate the average differences between men and women and how they're expressed in elite athletics.
Well, no, I'm not conflating them. I'm saying that, okay, so if you were to change it to, let's say leg length for running. So let's say you're doing hurdles. Right. And so having longer legs in hurdles is an advantage. Right. We agree to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it okay. So what you would do is you would then measure by leg length. And there would be categories that would mostly contain women or categories that would mostly contain men. Correct. Because you'd have men that are taller that have a longer leg length. And you'd have women that are shorter that have a shorter length, right? And in doing those things, you would still end up with majority female and majority male, but it would not stop a female or a trans female or a male or a trans male to compete with people who they can actually compete with in a sportsman-like setting. Does that make sense?
I agree.
I'm not trying to conflate that they're exactly the same to the point that you could just put them all together into a pot. That's not what I'm trying to say.
I think I just more took issue with when you said, it's sexist to just assume men are better than women because...
I was talking about a specific argument. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because the way I see it is the average guy on the street is never going to beat a female Olympian. But I would say that 99 times out of 100, you take two elite athletes from the same sport, like powerlifting or sprinting, or something that does where the male physiology does give you a very specific advantage. The guy will walk out on top.
So that's why I'm saying you would still change them by weight class. So all other things being equal, if their weight classes are the same, then it would be far more fair of a case. Whereas if you took an average man and an average woman, well, you're already talking about two different numbers. You see what I'm saying?
Well, super chat real quick. Jake 3D says, if full integration is impossible, and that is identified as, quote, the solution, then shut the fuck up, change the conversation and make it possible. As far as I know, integration plus more classes would go a long way to solve the issues. And at least it's a start. I mean, here's the thing. Just I was at least trying to come up with some possible solutions. From the other side, the regressive side, I haven't heard a goddamn thing for solutions. All I've heard is, oh, you're taking away our rights. Oh, woe is me. Oh, you're persecution me. That's all I've heard from that side. I have not heard a goddamn thing of anything that has given any legitimacy to the fact that they want to have a resolution on anything. It's all about.
Well, on top of it, it's like, I'm not saying that this would be a simple solution either.
No, it's not.
It would have to be different depending on. Yeah, exactly. It would depend. Each different sport would have to have a different type of, like, you would have to use different qualifiers. Right. So it'd be a really, really intensive fucking thing to figure out.
And you think that's rational for 0.6% of the population to just...
Yeah, because we should treat them fairly.
No, but like if you change all sports, it just really makes no sense. Like, for example, like in tennis, if you're to...
Are you saying that we shouldn't treat trans people fairly because they're a small minority and we shouldn't change the rules to make things easier and more fair for them?
Yeah, is that what you're saying?
No. But if you're to change certain sports based on,
if you're careful of that landmine there.
Don't get on Cheshire's bad side. I'm telling you right now.
Don't fight me.
Danger.
Manifold, could you just explain first what you're taking issue with before you try and put it into context?
Right. So if you're to propose a solution, say, we can integrate certain sports based on different criteria instead of sex, say body weight and height, right? So,
or gender.
Right, or gender, right? So if we're going to implement that and say, tennis, where we're going to say have, certain height limits and certain weight limits, and there's a lot, the way people enjoy that sport, because in the end, sport is entertainment. It's not like a...
Are you saying people wouldn't enjoy co-ed sports?
No, but in the way people actually kind of participate in sports and enjoy sports and kind of, in the way they spend their money in promoting sport, it's based on performance, and it's also based on competition.
Well, so the marketing would have to change. What's your point?
So the way you divide competition is very important. It's not necessarily...
That's what I've been saying.
That's right, kind of what right now, that's I think that's what her argument was.
No, but right now the way competition is divided is working, right?
Yeah,
like
no, it's not. It's not working. That's why we're having a conversation about it.
I don't know where you think you're living, Manifold, because it's obviously not working, or people will not be having these conversations.
How is it not working?
Oh my
God. Because a trans person got their medals taken away. That's not working. By
There's obviously
definition,
a flaw in the system. If that,
right, but not every sport is having this issue.
Right? Sure, not every sport.
What about some other sport that has no relevancy? Okay, you know what? Why should we?
What about darts, guys? Let's change darts.
Poker. You know what? Transgender need new rules because of poker. Like, it matters.
They don't even.
It doesn't matter.
The point is, they don't need rules That's the point. They don't need new rules.
I'm
not saying new rules. I'm not saying change the rules.
You need more new rules. The rules have to change to accommodate different things that they didn't have to have before. People didn't have hormone replacement therapy before. There are new rules always have to come into play when there's new problems.
And all that means is that if you're talking about the way people enjoy sports, then what you're talking about is just having to change the way they're marketed.
But
here's the thing too, that what Cheshire's ideas would solve too, and I don't hear anybody talking about this. When you talk about female to male transition,
yep.
So now, do they maybe have a disadvantage in professional sports if we're saying that male to female transition may have an advantage in certain sports? I mean, so
with Cheshire's idea, in time, the medical studies will show that.
Yeah.
So let it play out, change the rules. Like, I think she has a good idea, and then we wait for the studies to come in.
Yep.
Yeah, I love your idea.
So what you're saying is, for a woman, she has some good ideas. Is that what you're saying?
All
right, I gotta take off, guys. I gotta go back to work.
Hey, Cheshire, what are you doing? You wandering around outside there?
I am wandering around outside. Bye now.
He navigated that landmine pretty well.
So Cheshire thought she'd just stop by and give us some common sense for a few minutes.
She's good at that.
Then fade away.
I gotta admit, I think, and I'm not just sucking up to her because she's pretty cool, but I think that she's one of the most rational voices I've heard in a very long time.
Aw, thanks.
She paid me to say that. It was promotional.
I did. I'll send you the PayPal later.
Give us a quick scree before you.
I earned that dollar
before you leave.
Oh fuck! Hey, that's one thing I need to clarify, because I tried doing a bit of googling about it, but couldn't actually find the exact stats I was after. Transgendered Olympians have been allowed to compete since 2004. One thing I do agree with when it comes to people for transgender participation is the statement, well, if it was an issue, then it already would have come up. Right now, you're just shitty because trans athletes are winning.
Yeah, I think that's the dumbest argument, to be honest with you. I hear that too, and I think it's a very bad
argument. But they're not winning. That's the thing. They're not winning.
How many trans athletes have competed at the elite level and just come out as mediocre?
No, trans athletes are dominating.
And yet there's tons of stories out there. You can look at every day in the paper. Some person who said, "Look, I came in second place, and I was just blown out of the water." But transgender.
Yeah, again, I don't really give a fuck about
the happens all the time. Come on.
I don't give a fuck about what pops up on Twitter. Actually, what I'm asking is, has someone said, okay, out of all the Olympic Games featuring trans athletes since 2004, we've had this percentage of trans athletes and this percentage of gold medals amongst trans athletes, so therefore it is statistically a significant proportion of trans athletes coming out on top. Like, is there a greater likelihood that trans athletes are taking home gold medals than would otherwise be attributed just to chance?
Yes.
But
I've not seen any stats that would suggest that.
I think so.
Medals are not attributed by chance. There's no normal distribution of gold medals.
I think you're misunderstanding his question, Tom.
Yeah, but how would you even try to measure that?
Well, in statistics, you can do what's called a t-test, where you look at the actual this is going back to my knowledge from fucking 10 years ago. Basically,
a test.
The significance is less than 0.05.
Yes,
pretty much. The p-value is less than 0.05 for your certificate alpha.
Exactly. So in that context, greater than chances, essentially, is the quantity of trans athletes coming out on top what you would just expect in a normal distribution, or is the fact that they're trans having a significant impact on their actual performance in sport?
And are you cross-referencing across all kinds of sports or just specific sports?
I'm just saying, as for example, the Olympics, who have allowed trans athletes since 2004.
Yeah, I'm just really curious what sports trans athletes are dominating and how you cannot make the same argument against athletes of different races. You can say, holy shit, black people are dominating sprinting. Like it's the same type of idiotic fucking arguments that you make against different people. Like,
totally agree with that,
like,
but
yeah,
I
like,
would say
why are like holy shit, like white people are oppressed because black athletes are competing in sprints because they have high twitch muscles and all this other bullshit.
Yeah. High twitch, yeah, and the twitch. Some things are just not changeable.
Tactics that were used against black athletes.
And I would almost 100, or sorry, I would nearly completely agree with Manifold if it wasn't for the fact that in sport, we say that, sorry, in sport, the current paradigm is that, it's not a level playing field because we're not all born equally. We all have our own slight perturbations that make us really good or really shit in any number of domains. What makes the difference is, did you use something other than your God-given talents to win that medal? Was there some sort of substance? Was there some sort of additional artificial thing inserted into the equation that gave you an advantage you otherwise weren't just born with?
I agree.
Yeah, I think
like how about the sprinter that had those blade legs put on? He lost his legs and
Oscar Pistorius.
You know how many times I hear about people saying that, fuck, you know what, Serena Williams is just a guy that had her dick cut off, and her father just
who gives a fuck? That's retarded. That's the same people that say that Michelle Obama is trans. It's meaningless.
But you understand that adds nothing to the conversation. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Wasn't Pistorius originally
that's just irrelevant nonsense. Has nothing to do with anything.
Yes, Manifold. That's what's called a red herring.
Yeah, complete red herring. Yeah.
And further anyways, than that, I think the issue is, though, Fallon Fox. There will be cases like that where I do not think that Fallon Fox was on HRT for as long as she claims to have been, because her physique can only be achieved either with steroids or if you're a highly gifted man.
I got to wrap this up. It's getting late here. This was fun. Again, I hope people just watch the first part, especially the first 10 minutes, if anything. I really want to get my opinions out, and I appreciate the fact that people do listen to them, and I listen to their opinions contrary to belief if they're good opinions. I mean, it's simple as that. If you got something good to say, I will listen. If you got something bad to say, I'll listen. I'll critique it, but if I don't agree with you, I don't agree with you. Move the fuck on. I mean, don't take it personally. The people that think that they have some kind of opinion that if you don't value their opinion or don't believe their opinion, then all of a sudden you're just a very bad person. I just can't.
I don't think you're a bad person, Steve. Thanks for the discussion.
Likewise. No, Manifold, you're great, man, dude. No, this is a perfect example of a conversation that can talk about all kinds of stuff, and much love, man. I'm not referring to you, by the way. You know that, right, Manifold? Right?
Yes, sir.
You're totally okay in my book. I just think that I think you have your head a little bit buried in the sand because of bias, but that's just personally.
Intuition leads them astray.
Yeah. But anyways, why don't you guys wrap it up? Anybody got some last thoughts?
I have an observation about the topic.
Yeah.
I've noticed on Twitter that a lot of the problems you come across, it seems like sometime in the past, you had, I don't want to say schooled them, but you had proven a point to them. And I think they hold a grudge.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
And it shows when, because I haven't been vocal on Twitter, but I was on it for a while. And I had watched and I had followed you guys, and I see the same faces that will reappear when you're in trouble or in turmoil in some aspect.
Oh, they swarm on it.
Jump on, yeah. Mm-hmm. They seem to have a grudge, and it's that grudge that blinds them to every logical argument you make.
I have noticed there are certain people, whenever there's an embroilment going on, they have to throw their 2 cents in. If I may not have heard of them for a while. But they just throw that log in that fire, and I'm like, you're not adding to the dialogue at all. You're not doing a goddamn thing, but stoking it. You're just, in my opinion, wasting my time. But unless they go across that line, I can't block them. I can, but I try not to. Right? It takes a lot for me to block somebody. Like I just recently blocked somebody only because I asked them multiple times, stop talking about me personally. Right? Because every time they jump into the conversation, it's all about me. It's all about how smug I am and how I'm always think I'm right, and I'm not always right. I don't listen to criticism, all that kind of unwarranted, unasked for criticisms. That's not helping anything. You're trying to change me. It's not going to happen. And I think your arguments are shit. I don't think you know as half as much as you think you do, and I don't think that there's any value for your criticism. So therefore, why would you out of the way to give somebody criticism and critique them if they don't want it? If they say, hey, Steve, you know what? I don't value anything you have to say. I appreciate your input, but I have to do things my own way. knock yourself out, brother. I'm not going to continue on with you. Right? Why would I? Right?
Yeah,
That's
speak about the arguments, not the person.
Yeah. And so I at that point, all it does is adds undue drama to the dialogues, and I at that point sometimes I do block people.
Some of the people that give you criticism are friends. They care about you, because if they didn't, they wouldn't do that.
Okay, but they use it. Certain ones, yes. Okay, but certain ones I will allow that kind of criticism from.
Like Shannon.
But Shannon, hang on.
Give you criticism because they care about you.
Shannon and I have known each other for a very long time. We've built up a rapport with each other. Okay, I talk to her in private messages all the time. I respect her privacy. She respects mine. I tell Shannon things I tell no other people. Okay, because she has a degree in psychology, and I know I can trust her. Right, so she knows certain things that most people don't know.
She's a friend. You recognize her as a friend.
I don't have that rapport with other people. Okay, and certain people, I'm sorry, that they're not what I consider to be a friend. When all they want to do is go after me. Not interested in that. Just not.
Well, not only that, but Steve and Shannon are two peas in a pod when it comes to pulling no punches.
Oh yeah, and I would, like I told her, and like I told, she knows, like I told Ocean, I wouldn't respect them if they didn't pull punches, right? I wouldn't respect them if they did pull punches, because they need to be brute, straight out there. I don't, with them, that's something I expect from them, because I know them well enough to know that if they treated me any different, like a special little snowflake, I would take offense. I would really take offense. And so they don't, right? Now, that doesn't mean I have to agree with them, but it comes across very hostile on Twitter, because people just, they read into things, right? And they don't understand, no, she's as blunt. Same with me when it comes with each other. That's it. That's all it is. Okay. Does that make sense? But I do agree with you, Addiction Master. I very much have noticed that. Other people have noticed that as well. And there's a group that I have, a whole group of block people, but they have actually gone on like alternate accounts and secondary accounts or troll accounts and try jumping back in. I'm like, no,
those sock accounts.
You're done, bitch. No.
Like, Twitter is just a cesspool. I don't even bother with it.
It is a cesspool. Facebook's not much better, but
yeah, it's even worse.
But at least with Facebook, you can get more out, right? So
yeah, I mean, at least that is the one advantage Facebook has, is that you can make long posts and explain your position properly. Whereas Twitter, you're stuck with doing these 240 characters, and you have to do several post threads to get any sort of intelligible point across.
Yes, but I do want to. You get the last word in, because then I'm going to give you done, John.
Yeah, all I was going to say is, look for it this weekend on the Great Debate Community Channel. We're going to talk about the weaponization of social media.
Awesome.
I've already asked Nick Suter to join us, not to steal, from Steve's roster.
Yeah,
but,
that's my homie for asking philosopher. That's
yeah. And I'm sure some other people are joining us. Probably sometime this weekend. I was going to try Friday night, but Steve let me know that they're having David Kokish on Non-Sec Friday night, and that'll probably be a long one. So
yeah. Yep.
Well, I just want to say thanks for having me on. It's the first time I've done
pleasure.
Levy.
Yeah, no, I
had a lot of fun.
I'm so glad that you dropped in. Thank you. And weren't you in the live chat going, you didn't have anything to add? Was that you or somebody else?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that was.
I was in the live chat, but I didn't join until really late. I didn't realize you were ending so soon.
There was somebody named Progressive Liberal that was in there that said they didn't have much to add.
No, that may have been regressive liberal, but that wasn't.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate what you had to offer, Ethan. Like I said, I think I agreed with you like wholeheartedly. So anyways, when you guys watch this, or anybody watch this later, please leave a comment in the video description. Let us know what you think. Agree or disagree. Like I said, nobody's ever been chastised or blocked for disagreeing with me. That narrative has to stop. That's one thing I will put the kibosh on. If you ever hear anybody would say something along the lines of, oh, well, Steve just blocks anybody who disagrees with them, tell them they can suck a dick, okay? Because they're completely wrong. There's no evidence of that ever happening. Every time I block somebody, there has been a reason, very good reasons, and it's usually because they're trolling. But I mean, like, I disagreed with Manifold. He's still here, right? I mean, but Manifold, sure.
But who is spreading this narrative then?
There's quite a few people that say that, Tom. Actually, there's quite. I see it quite frequently pop up. I can't think of a specific case, so it's one of the things you just
on Twitter and Facebook, I guess.
Mostly Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But Twitter seems to me like the perfect platform to start internet fights.
Well, Tom, you used to see the exact same thing happen in the Great Debate Community on G+. Oh, you don't agree with Steve?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and did you know I did? I actually showed the entire block list on video one time right? And somebody else looked at it too. Every one of those names, I can tell you why they were blocked, and that's how infrequently it happened, right? I mean, and there's obviously like multiple troll accounts, but it's very rare. And so not one of the people that were ever blocked from the GDC was because they happened to disagree with me. I got some vitriolic fights, like even there's names I recognize in the live chat now, like God Barrett. We have some very vitriolic fights. I have blocked him on Twitter. He's fine in the live chat here, not a problem, right? I might even unblock him on Twitter if he remains, civil. But it wasn't because he disagreed with me. It was because he made it personal, and he took it beyond that disagreement. But since he stopped doing that, right, he's perfectly fine to come around again. I don't have a problem with that. So it's never about being just somebody that we disagree with. But anyways, I'm going to end this. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate letting me vent on this, and I do appreciate all you guys.
Thanks for the conversation. I appreciate it.
We're gonna be doing this about 2 to 3 times a week, hopefully now. I just think that there's a lot of conversations to be had, and people are really enjoying having these later evening conversations, like after non-sec, and I am too. So, all right, good night, guys.